Didn't you also say earlier that you're against unions, but are you for them now?
No, I never said that.
Oh, so you're for unions?
Absolutely.
So when the unions keep
when would
black
say
folks
ever?
out, you're for that as well? Because that's traditionally what they've done,
No,
keep black
wait,
folks out,
wait,
correct?
that's
Obviously,
not good.
I am not for that. The
You
reality.
can be in favor of unions, but not be in favor of unions being racist. Like, I don't. This is so stupid. Like, I don't. That's like saying, oh, you like baseball. Wow, must have been really happy when they kept, when they kept black people out and the way they treated Jackie Robinson, right? What? Like, what? No. The conservative, you can't make this shit up. Like, it's like honestly comical to like see how their mind, like in this scenario as well with unions, union good, union discriminating because of race and keeping black people out bad. That doesn't mean union bad. It means racism bad. How hard is that to understand? Like, Jesus Christ. Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. If you're coming over from TikTok or one of my other platforms, thank you so much for being here. And just in general, thank you so much for clicking on this video. This one should be an interesting one, as all of these surrounded episodes are guaranteed to be entertaining. If you wonder why they get so many views and Jubilee keeps making them, well, outrage definitely sells, and there's definitely a debate to be had of how useful it is in our current political climate. But regardless, they're going to keep making them. I'm going to keep reacting to them and being in the videos when I can, because the other alternative is that I don't make the videos and someone else is in that chair or someone else is doing this. So I don't know. I think that the whole discourse surrounding whether these videos, just shouldn't be made at all, or if Jubilee's doing something wrong, I don't know. I can understand the plausible case for not platforming fascists, like in the Mehdi Hassan episode, but at the same time, these people are out there, and some people need a reality check. Some people are just completely tuned out and don't think politics matters, and sometimes they need kind of, that shock of the ideas that are becoming more prevalent for them to get involved, and that things like democracy, things like freedom, fighting against fascism, they don't just come to us. We're not immune from those sorts of things. So sorry, I didn't want this to be too preachy at the beginning, but just in general, if you're coming over from TikTok or my Instagram, once again, thanks for being here. I just want to say apologies for not putting out as much content. There's been some stretches there that I haven't been making content. So if you guys have any ideas of videos you want me to post, just in general, whether that be YouTube shorts here on YouTube or just also be posting those over on TikTok and Instagram, feel free to leave comments, or feel free to leave topics down there in the comments of videos that you would want to see, and I will absolutely be happy to make those videos. I'd be more than happy to make videos that you guys would find interesting, because that's kind of what I want to do. I want to make content that is educational and that you all enjoy. So hopefully this video will be interesting. I have not watched it. This is once again a blind reaction, and I've seen the teaser trailer that Jubilee put out before the video came out, but I've not watched the video. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see for sure. How one black radical versus 20 black conservatives. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to speak to what I can speak. Obviously, I can't speak on certain things in the regarding the black experience. I mean, I'm obviously not black, so my area or my realm of knowledge is limited, and I don't have that lived experience. But I think I still want to provide my 2 cents. Still want to, give my commentary. Take it or leave it, and I hope you clicked on this video for that. So without further ado, I guess let's get right into it.
Black culture is toxic. And let's get on the fact that there's no fathers
So
in
white
the black
culture
home. Let's talk
Stop.
about that.
Stop.
Who do
You're
we vote
talking
for?
to a radical, not a Democrat. The radical mind state simply is living opposite to our colonizers, which is an imperialist, capitalist mind state, and radical blacks do not believe that that is any way for us to have liberation. Well, here's
So
what
when
you
you-
all keep
no,
doing.
no, no,
You
just
keep
give me-
interrupting
Here's
me when
Austin.
I'm talking, and you don't want to hear the
He's on
point that
all
I'm
these
going to make.
episodes.
The point that
And
you're
yet you want
raising-
me to respect your point. And that's not how a debate works. If I show you respect, give me the respect back. Ooh, I knew I was going to be surrounded by ignorance, but damn, let's go. Greetings. I am Amanda Seals, widely known as a comedian, an actress, a disruptor, an annoying person on the internet who always tells the truth. And I am now an artistic intellectual who commits myself to making art that educates. And today,
Nice. Should be interesting.
I am surrounded by 20 black conservatives. My first claim is it is undeniable that
First off, I want to go back right here. I hadn't heard of her until then, so I'm glad to be introduced to her. It sounds like it'll be an interesting video and conversation. This video actually filmed right before the Cenk Uygur one filmed the same day. So just interesting how they decide when the videos come out. That was just interesting that A lot of these people, Austin was in both. So Austin had a long day that day, apparently, being in 2 surrounded episodes on the same day, which film for like 3 hours and they chop them down. So, that's a lot. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I will be very curious to see. She definitely has the energy for the video. There's obviously going to be the comments. I don't want to turn on too long right now because we haven't even really started the video, but it's obviously going to be the comments that are telling her she's being too aggressive, all the different things that are hurled at women in general, and especially black women for being too aggressive, all of the microaggressions and racist insults that they throw out. But it takes a level of, grit, and it takes a level of, confidence and speaking through to do well in these debates. I mean, this is not a highbrow intellectual debate, as we'll very clearly find out. And you got to have those rhetorical skills. So I'm excited to see her hopefully employ some of those, as it seems that has been the case in the intro. So let's keep going.
20 black conservatives. My first claim is it is undeniable that reparations are just and necessary.
All right, should be interesting.
All right, reparations, fair, necessary. My question would be, who's going to get it? Why would they get it? And how long are we going to sit here focusing on trying to get reparations? It's been how many years since slavery? 150 years, 1865? Whenever there's a real thing that this country wants to do, they do it. Stop Asian hate. Okay, there's a problem with the Asian hate. Let's draft a bill, sign it, and it's done.
Do you think
anything needs to be done is done?
Do you think that stopped Asian hate, though? Do you think like Congress acting on 1 or 2 bills stopped racism? Like what? What is his point?
With us, it's a carrot.
These are the same people who think Obama ended racism. I want to bet right now, without a shadow of a doubt, that he or someone else is going to bring up that racism is not a thing, or systemic racism is not a thing because we had a black president. Fucking guarantee it. Him or someone else is going to cite that, because the most common thing of conservatives just be like, oh, you think that America's racist? What about black president? Or Kamala Harris being vice president. Like that is as idiotic as, like, I don't know, thinking the arts are a lucrative industry because someone like John Williams makes millions of dollars. Like these are anomalies. Okay, just saying that someone can rise to the top who is a person of color absolutely does not disprove the existence of systemic racism. So I don't know. I think that's just a fun bet to make, just to see what's going to happen. So I'm pretty confident. Let's find out if Anthony or someone else brings that up.
In front of us that they don't really want to do. And it's not going to help. We need education. Oh, it's not going to help. No, it's not. We need education. Getting a check from the government is not going to do that. And we need proper education. A lot of us go to these institutions where we're not really prepared, we're not really focused, and we don't get things that help us in the real world. So if you want to help black people, a check from the government, from our tax dollars is going to get raised, because let's be clear, everybody in here is black. We all American, we all got to pay taxes. Sure. It'll go to that. So I don't really see how this is going to help us at all.
Okay. Well, first I'll start with, it will help on even just a moral level. The reality is that the United States has become very comfortable with the fact that it does not consider black people equal. And it shows that in many ways that I'm sure we will discuss over the course of today. But ultimately, there has not been a committed, concerted effort to shifting the mindset around the use of black people as a labor force in this nation back when it was slavery, now in the use of slavery as slave labor in prisons. Yep. So on a basic cultural level, reparations are an act of repair. They are an effort to say, our bad, we see you now. We have seen that done with Japanese folks who were put in internment camps. We have seen that done with Jewish folks. We have seen that done even in the case of slave owners who received reparations. When it comes to the use of tax dollars to pay reparations, and this is going to come up a lot today, it's a matter of values, right? For me, my value system circulates around the fact that I think that as a community, we should all be engaged in repair for our community. So I don't think there should be any problem with there being tax dollars spent at repairing consistent efforts that have been made to impede black people. So the reparations you're talking about are not just related to slavery. There's reparations that have been discussed all over this nation in different communities as it relates to particular massacres, as it relates to redlining and the impediment of black people to earn wealth by having property. There's been impediments in various ways that can be repaired. Yep. And I want to also just add There's reparations that are considered a cash payment from a government. There's also the version of reparations that shows up in
Community
how
investment, yeah.
funds are applicated to specific groups of people.
Correct.
So there's multiple ways in which what you're stating cannot happen could very well happen.
Okay, now as far as the money going towards certain things is going to help us, let's look at Baltimore Public Schools.
Oh,
They
this
get, I think, the third most money per pupil in the US of
not
A,
third.
like $15,000 per student, but yet the majority of the population that comes from that environment can't read. They're illiterate. So we're dumping money on the situation, yes, but yet we're not getting the results we should get from it. Money's not going to help the thing. We need to just focus on what we need to focus on. As far as Black people being...
Hold on, let's first address this idea that like education, that just obviously dumping money at a system that is fundamentally corrupt and systemically racist is not going to solve the problem. So once again, he's strawmanning her position. Her position is not just reparations, we just give more money. It's cash payments or just we invest more. It's we change how we're investing. Stop investing so much money in policing and divert some of those funds towards having mental health counselors, having social workers, having more access to resources, things like that. So even in an education budget, which is spent in certain ways, it can't be spent in certain ways. We can't use it to necessarily feed kids. Something like free school lunch. That's something that it can be invested in, but in many cases it's not. It's just invested in paying staff, paying janitors, which, mind you, are all important things, but don't address the root of the problem, which is how money is being allocated. So reparations is not just more money going to underprivileged communities. It's allocating that money to specific things that will work, if that makes sense. Allocating it to these students in these schools who are struggling and investing in their success, okay? Things that they actually need, not wasting the money. I'm the first person to admit that education can be wasteful in certain ways. Things can be spent. Superintendents can be overpaid, principals and things like that. Absolutely. However, teachers should be getting paid more. Students should be getting the tools for success. And yeah, just because money is being exchanging hands and there's a lot of money, there's more money being spent on a certain student, doesn't mean that they're getting a better education. It might just be that, for example, busing programs or whatever. I went to almost doxed my high school there. I won't do that. I went to a high school that was in the suburbs, and they bussed kids in from the city of Milwaukee. Well, I guess I just did the city, but you guys know I'm from Milwaukee. They bus kids in. So part of that money that was spent on busing. So part of what's being spent on those students is busing, because those students often don't live close enough to school, or they have to have a school bus because their parents can't drive them. So of course there's going to be more expenses for students who live in the city or students who have more needs. That doesn't mean at all that like spending more money means that it's not working. Okay, that could mean that the money that we're spending is not being allocated correctly, and also that maybe in certain cases it's not enough because it's not addressing the needs of the students, which maybe vastly outnumber the needs of some other students. For example, students who live in the suburbs or people who live in the suburbs who don't have to take the bus because either they can walk or their parents can drive them, and they don't need a school lunch because their parents are able to feed them, and they don't need to have extra tutoring that's covered by the taxpayer dollars because their parents can afford it. So in many ways, having less money costs the school more because they have to make up for the poverty. So like obviously this conversation is like so complex, and they just try to reduce it down to, oh, more money does not always solve problem, therefore we should not invest more. And it's such a simplistic mindset that, will be exemplified on and on and on again, I'm sure.
Labor force of this country, what else are we doing? We got 25% of us on some kind of government assistance. One out of every 3 Black men will go to jail.
True.
We got to do something. We got to work with our hands, work with
Why?
tools, do something, because we're not doing much of anything.
Why is that the case?
And also, one more piece here. Reparations, again, always dangling in front of us, never going to happen. As long as you've been living, as long as I've been living, as long as everybody been living, they say we need it, and it never gets done. One more piece.
What?
You just said one more piece, then you added
Hold
another
on,
one.
Thank you.
I promise.
So hold on to it.
One
No,
more
hold
piece.
on.
Can we address that for a second first? This idea that like reparations is like a carrot being dangled in people's face, or he's trying to say is dangled in Black people's face to just keep them complacent. It's kind of ridiculous. It's very difficult to pass things like this, especially when there is a concerted effort not to do it. Like, I don't know, would his argument be during the civil rights movement that we shouldn't fight for civil rights? Because, this whole talk of civil rights that has been an ongoing conversation since the abolition of slavery and Reconstruction. No, guys, no, don't. It's no, they're dangling it in front of your face. Don't expect liberation. Don't expect to not be segregated against, because it's just a carrot they're dangling in your face. We should stop fighting for it. Like, that's ridiculous. No. This is the same conversation. Just because it hasn't been done yet doesn't mean we shouldn't fight for it. Like that's such a, it's an idiotic point when you stop to think about it. The problem is conservatives don't do that. They don't think often, frankly. So yeah.
To it.
I'm gonna land the plane. I'm gonna land the plane. I promise. Reparations is a thing. Like I said, it's a carrot they dangle in front of us. They're never really going to get it done. And if it was going to get done, it would have already been done.
What does that even mean? Let's use the same logic once again on the civil rights movement. Civil rights for black people are never going to get done because if it were to get done, if it was going to get done, then it would have already been done. What? That is why you fight for things. That's why there's movements towards things. If everyone said back in, I don't know, at the beginning of time, not beginning of time, sorry. If everyone said when America was founded, or even, either when America was founded, when in 1492, when Columbus got here, well, if women were going to have rights, or if non-white people were going to have rights, if people weren't going to be enslaved, well, it already would have happened by now. Where'd we be? Of course not. This is, once again, just an excuse for complacency. It's an excuse to accept the status quo because you think nothing better is possible, because you think anything better, it already would have happened. These people probably think Trump has done so many things better. Why expect Trump to do any of the things you want? Because if those things were possible, they already would have gotten done. We're seeing how idiotic this type of thinking is, but I've been able to tell as soon as this guy opened his mouth that he's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
It's just something that they're using to try and make us stay Democrat. That's what I wanted to say.
Oh my God.
Well,
Because
Democrats
Owens
are
talking
not doing
points here.
reparations either.
They're not.
This is nonpartisan. This is black partisan, baby. Okay?
Well,
this is nonpartisan.
Who do we vote for? Who do we vote for 93% of the time? There's no incentive.
To be quite honest, you're not talking to
This is kind of ridiculous as well. Like, you're saying, oh, black people always vote for Democrats. Yeah, because the Republicans want to literally cut all of the assistance that, as we talked about before, as the stats showed, they rely on. I don't really know why you think that's shocking, or you're blaming them. Oh yeah, so many black people are Democrats. The party that openly embraces the Confederate flag, that flew the Confederate flag inside of the Capitol on January 6th. The first time that flag ever entered the United States Capitol, it did not ever make it in the Capitol during the Civil War. I think it's an interesting fact. Yeah, what do you think they're gonna vote for them? No one's saying the Democrats are perfect. Of course not. Are the Democrats, very flawed? Absolutely. We're just choosing between the lesser of two evils. That's kind of what voting always is. And when the two options between voting are, Republicans who, are outwardly racist, just embracing racism at every chance they get, and instituting economic policies that disenfranchise and severely hurt marginalized communities, the black community. And the other option is, not that. They might, throw a little bit at you every once in a while. I'm not trying to say the Democratic Party is useless. We've gotten to this with the Cenk debate, making more people eligible for Medicaid, but there's always the strings attached and things like that. Then yeah, they're going to choose that. I don't know. It's so ridiculous to be the Democratic Party has just brainwashed the black people into voting for them. No, the Republicans just objectively suck, and they're openly racist. So the problem of a majority of black people voting Democratic, if it's a problem, if we're gonna call it a problem, is that Republicans are just open avowed racists. So I don't. It's, once again, ridiculous talking point.
You're talking to a radical.
Okay, but let's land this plane very quickly. Who do we vote for?
Let's land this plane quickly.
You're talking to a radical, was crashing and burning as soon as it took off.
You are your own person.
Let me tell you something now. I don't know what they told you, but if they told you that cutting me off is how we're going to get clicks, stop it now.
Oh, no.
That's not how we're going to. That's not how we're going to enter.
We having a debate.
A debate does not require continuously cutting somebody off.
Okay, no problem.
Now I do want to state this. you're stating things as it relates to how money is not fixing a problem.
Correct.
Without acknowledging the fact that the problem doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Thank you.
And that
Okay,
there are
there we
so
go.
many other factors that are determining how that money is getting spent to impede it from actually fixing a problem. You
Correct.
can put all the money into Baltimore public schools you want, but if you are also putting all this money into
There we
policing,
go, yeah.
into communities that
You need
are
to
not
shut up.
getting resources,
making
then
the
you
points
are
she's gonna
also creating your own conundrum. The other part of this is that when you're saying they, you know, the they is a broad context. And the last part of this that I will say is that you keep saying they're dangling this in our face, they're dangling in our face. Slavery lasted for 400 years. It hasn't even been 400 years since slavery.
So
should we be only fighting for a quarter of the time to get repair?
All right, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You've been voted
that.
out by the majority.
Good for her.
Please return to your seat.
I need to just be quiet because all the points I was making in progress before she started talking about.
My name is Matt Nuclear.
Hello,
I
Matt.
appreciate
Matt
sharing-
Nuclear?
Matt
Matt
Nuclear, yes.
Matt Nuclear, give me a better handshake than that. Let's
Thank
do
you.
it.
I
All right.
appreciate having this conversation with a beautiful black woman like yourself. This is nice, beautiful arena here. I disagree that reparations are necessary. I think the most important thing that's necessary right now for the black community would be the stopping of violence, especially black on black violence. I don't see how reparations is going to solve anything. You can give everyone here like a $50,000 check, especially people that are in the streets who are committing violent crimes consistently. A $50,000 check, it's not going to fix anything.
So here's the problem that we have with conservatives, and I'm saying this again at risk of taking exactly what she's going to say. So if I say anything and then she says the same thing, obviously credit her on that. But no, this whole idea, like, this is the problem with conservatives, is they just don't ask enough questions, and they also don't understand what they're against. So ask a conservative. This is the best thing you can do when you're talking with someone who is conservative or on the right. If they bring up something like reparations or critical race theory or wokeness or anything like that, just ask them to explain the thing that they claim that they are so vehemently against. And I swear the overwhelming majority of time you're going to get some convoluted non-answer that doesn't even address the problem or doesn't even address the topic at hand, because they don't know. They don't know what they're afraid of. They don't know what they don't like. They're just being fed this. So, like, in this case, too, like, reparations, you just think going up to every single drug dealer in Compton and giving them a $50,000 check is gonna lower crime, you stupid liberal. Like, no one's arguing that. That's a straw man that you've made up in your mind because you lack the ability to understand that there is a more complex way that this is happening, or that we're not doing that reparations can happen as investment in community, cash payments can be a part of it, restructuring of how funding goes. Like, there's so much surrounding it, but their brains can't, like, comprehend that, so they boil it down to the stupidest possible thing they can think of, which is impressive. And, like, just go with that, because that's all they think it is. They have no idea what's going on. So, like, I don't know. Once again, unsurprising.
It's not going to increase the median household income in the next 10 years by 10% or 20%. For example, we have the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. We prevented Chinese people from getting citizenship and even entering the country. We discriminated against them and basically put them under apartheid, even here in the United States. Yet they have the highest median household income. How is that possible? How come they don't complain and feel entitled consistently to beg for reparations and beg for this?
Talk about this model minority myth.
90%
That's what it's called.
time.
Okay, one sec. Model minority myth. Let's address this. It constantly gets brought up. They're like, why are black people struggling if Asian people who have been oppressed are doing so well? Very simple. This is not like, oh my God, black people and their culture sucks and Asians are just so much more hardworking. No, it's not. Let's look at the root of the problem, which is, how did black people, the overwhelming majority of people, get to this country, or their ancestors for that matter, get to this country, versus people from Asia? You think you know what I'm getting at here? One of them were chained to the bottom of ships, kidnapped, brutally abused, had no say in their freedom, and the other voluntarily chose to come over here through immigration. You see how that might have a difference there? I'm sure that if we went over to Asia and kidnapped as many people and brought them here and they were enslaved, they would also be falling behind in that sense. When you rob people of their culture, when you strip them of their rights, you're not going to see that just turn around in a very short amount of time. Of course, we had things like the Chinese Exclusion Act, but they are comparing the Chinese Exclusion Act, which was awful and terrible, and of course, racism against Asians has always been a thing. It's not comparable to the widespread chattel slavery that existed in the United States. So, like, once again, conservatives just take two things that are not equal. Oh, you see, look, this is so obvious, like that it's not like a black people problem, because you know who's also the highest earners, or some of the highest earners? Nigerian Americans, because a majority of Nigerian Americans right now are immigrants from Nigeria who are picked, who are the best among them. So these days, the immigrants that come in from those countries are not just the everyday people in those countries, they are the best. And I'm sorry, I should clarify by not best. They're the best well off. They are able, they are financially stable. They can put down the deposit that the U.S. requires in order for them to even be considered admission to this country. So, like, yeah, no wonder that everyday black people, sorry, not everyday black people, I'm sorry, like, just like ordinary black Americans are going to be doing worse statistically than hand-selected immigrant groups who voluntarily chose over here and are not the descendants of people who were kidnapped and robbed of their culture and dignity. Not that complicated. But once again, conservatives love straw men and not understanding a problem they claim to be against.
Which is the rate that black people
on
kill
black,
each other, according to the
black on
FBI.
black crime.
Oh, young Matt.
Yet white people are the oppressors.
I'm not sure where your education came from, but they lied to you.
Stats
So,
don't lie, though.
Statistics lie all the time. So let's start there, particularly when the statistics are coming from the sources that gain from the statistics being shown a different way. So if you're going to start your argument on stats don't lie, you've already lost the argument. They lie.
haven't, though.
They lie all the time. One,
They do.
comparing Chinese people who are immigrants that made a choice to
There
come to
we
the
go.
United States and comparing the continued effort of black people to ground themselves in a nation that continues to make impediments for them to show and live and exist in their true citizenship is a false equivalency.
I don't believe that happens at all. What? No one here is in.
Are you
being
acting
impinged on
right now?
anything.
Do you
I'm,
really
I'm
believe
telling the
this?
truth. There's no systemic racism that I've experienced here in America. What system is racist? I think the only racism we've actually seen recently, systemic racism that we've
Against
seen,
white
is the
people.
application of systemic racism against white people. The University of Western Washington, for
Jesus,
example,
these people.
has been trying to segregate dormitories, using black-only dormitories because black people feel safer amongst each other, but they're more likely to kill each other than white people are ever to kill them. That's just the truth.
Hold on, stop. She's probably going to talk about like this myth of black on black crime. So I do want to hear what she has to say. But like, just first, like this idea of black on black crime. It's not because they're black. They're not killing each other because they're black. I'm sure she's going to bring up this idea that there's like, white on white crime too. 85% of white people are killed by other white people. There's not a racialized component in the killing. It's proximity killing. It's who is closest to you. It's not racialized violence in the sense of motivation. It's just who lives around each other the most. So yeah, of course, black on black crime, proximity crime is going to be mainly black people killing other black people because people live around those who are usually the same race because of the legacy of segregation. Like this is so obvious. Redlining was a thing. They packed African Americans into smaller neighborhoods because white people didn't want to live around them because it would lower the property values. So they redlined them into certain neighborhoods, and obviously that has gone on. Like Milwaukee, the city I'm from, the most segregated city in the country. You can see this for your own eyes. I mean, like they would literally, have you heard the phrase the wrong side of the tracks? That phrase comes from that when they would literally build railroads through communities so that on one side were the people who were, less well off, often overwhelmingly black, and on the other side of town, that it would be white, or it would be for those who are better off. So like, yeah, like this is so ingrained and baked in, and you can see it within city planning and city design. The fact that an overwhelming majority, like we don't have like adequate public transportation, that adversely affects African Americans more because I think 1 in 4 African Americans. It's been a while since I brushed up on these statistics, so they might be a little bit out of date. From what I read last, I did some projects in school. 1 in 4 African American households do not have a car. Versus I think it's 1 in 6 or I think maybe 1 in 8 white households don't have a car. So the fact that we don't have adequate public transportation negatively impacts black people because they're not able to take advantage of the car systems. Like, I don't know, car systems is a bad word. I'm a little bit tired. Like, they're not able to take advantage of public transportation because it is severely underfunded. Okay? And now I'm thinking about, like, what is it called? Like, there's going to be conservatives in the comments or whatever. Did bro just say black people don't have cars? Like, no, I'm not saying that. But it is true that the statistics show, if we want to talk about stats, that they are less likely, okay, to have a car. They disproportionately do not have cars. And when there is a city that does not have adequate public transportation, and the only way to get around is a motor vehicle, and you don't have a motor vehicle, you're disenfranchised. You have to pay more to pay for You have to pay for the ability to get to work somehow. I don't know, whatever that would be. Okay, have someone drive you. That's more inconvenient. It's like there's so many things that like people don't think about in what is systemic racism and what the legacy of the subjugation of black people did. So I don't know. I just want to point that out. I'll let it keep going.
You have King Von rapping about killing other black men. Why should I think that the white man is the oppressor when black men are more likely to kill me?
Oh my
Tell me.
God, this is scary. You need to
Why are
think
they
about
like
me
that?
as your mama. Do not talk to me in that fashion. So let's check that now.
I know. Okay. I don't. It's kind of weird to me. Like I don't. Why don't you just have a conversation with him? Like I don't. Yeah, he's wrong. Say why he's wrong, but like, you don't have to institute this hierarchy. Granted, rhetoric. I might be analyzing this from the perspective of like, what's the proper thing to do in debate? And maybe this is rhetorically effective. We'll find out. But at least rubs me the wrong way. But yet again, what do I know?
Okay. So on a basic level, we have to understand that systemic racism is grounded in the realities that black people have not been considered an equal human being in this country since its onset. So there's simply no way to make the argument that there isn't systemic racism when we have seen in very clear ways the system operate in an organically racist way. Do not cut me off. When we talk about systemic racism, we can start with even the fact that redlining, which was implemented to discriminate black communities. Are you shaking your head that redlining doesn't exist?
No, I'm saying I don't think it really existed at all. I mean, no, I don't think so at all.
So it does exist.
What are we doing? What are we doing? This and the whites are Native Americans. Like these people just, yeah, no, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. Like what are we wasting our time doing? You're never going to convince this dude if he just won't accept historical facts that existed. Like oh my God. Jesus Christ.
And stating that it doesn't exist doesn't make it no longer exist. Redlining absolutely exists. It is not something that's being made up. It's an empirical fact. And there are realities that exist because of redlining. We know that school systems are related to the way that property taxes are affecting the school systems. If a school system is not getting the same property value as the property taxes allow it, then it's not going to have the same efficacy at allowing for students to be able to get what they deserve. When we talk about systemic racism, we have to acknowledge that these private prisons are literally built based on the test scores of school students in 3rd grade. So if you are literally building prisons with the
I haven't heard
onset
of that before. Let me see. Direct correlation to literacy and education, levels of incarceration rates. Yeah. Claiming that prison planners use that data to decide where to build has been debunked. All right. I haven't looked into it, so I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me, but also San Fact Check is like owned by a billionaire and is super right wing, at least in their operation. So I don't. Once again, me invoking, appeal to authority fallacy, or would that be the genetic fallacy? Sorry, guys. I will stop being all in philosophy, thought experiment land, or just philosophy in general. Sorry. I am tired, guys. If you can't tell, maybe I'll cut this out of the video, but just for honesty's sake, yeah, I had a long day, but I wanted to get this video out for you guys. So if sometimes I just like randomly reboot or something like that, that is why. So yeah, of course, there's going to be more prisons that are in like urban areas because there's more people, and absolutely there's the school to prison pipeline, as it's called, is a real thing. Whether or not prison planners use the data or test scores of 3rd graders to build prisons, I don't know the specifics of that. Would it surprise me? No. But like I don't think they really need to do that. Like they already know where to build the prisons and to how to get that cheap labor from, criminalizing things like marijuana and like low-level drugs and then putting those people in prison to exploit them for their labor, who are overwhelmingly African American. Like so yeah, like that exists. That other claim about 3rd graders and test scores, I don't know that much about it. I haven't looked into it.
Of, okay, if these people are not reaching a certain reading level, then we know that they're going to go down a prison industrial pipeline where we can use their free labor. Then how is that not systemic? And if you want to
stop them from entering prisons,
how are you going to stop people from entering prisons?
What the fuck? Okay, sorry. I'll let him continue. Just like somebody, just tell them don't commit crime. Just tell them don't do that. What an easy thing. I wish we could solve the opioid epidemic by telling like addicts, just don't shoot up, man. Just don't put heroin in. Just don't pop those pills. Like, wow. Really, really, really insightful there. Never thought about that. Just tell people don't do it and they're not gonna. Like, these people are just like genuinely just comical. Like she said, like, I hope this dude's like acting. Like, how are you this dense?
If your goal is to get them into prison.
Sure, make them try to be more like Ben Carson than be like King
How
Von.
do you make them try to be more like someone? Ben Carson's a terrible example. That dude's a piece of shit. Did great stuff as a brain surgeon, whoever he was, and then he completely, I guess, lost the mind of his own.
Simple.
So how does King Von happen? How does King Von happen?
King Von had,
Reparation.
hold on,
Actually,
let
no.
me
Let
finish.
me land the plane.
Yeah.
We're talking about reparations, and what you're doing is actually just trying to get this conversation off the facts. And
Ben
the fact is,
Carson's-
reparations are just and necessary because on a basic level, black people built this country, and the country continues to thrive off of the labor that black people put into this country. And it would behoove you, young man, to really understand the way that your ancestors put blood, sweat, and tears into this nation that is still living off of those blood, sweat, and tears. And let me also add, there are reparations and then there is remunerations. Do you know the difference?
Yes, but can I finish one
No,
point that I wanted to
answer the
say?
question.
Ben Carson,
Have him explain
Ben
it.
Carson's cousins were killed at a very young.
I'm so sorry. You've been voted out by the majority.
Okay.
Please return to your seat.
Exception to the rule.
I
Right
hope
there.
some of y'all are acting. I really do. I really. We in
Okay.
LA. We in LA, and I hope some people in here are acting.
The dude from the intro. Here we go.
Oh, what's that on your chain?
This is a coin from Israel.
Lord have mercy.
Yes, you gotta go.
That's a choice that you are making for yourself.
Yes. The thing with the whole reparations thing, and I don't know, we're probably close
with
to the
the whole
same age, so maybe you can't call me.
How old are
mom.
you?
I'm 32.
I am 44.
Oh, really? Oh, you look young.
Thank you. That's what water and keeping stress out of your life will do.
Really? Liberal positions are real stressful.
By the way, I wouldn't know. I'm not a liberal.
There we go.
Carry on.
Well, it's the liberal position because conservatives believe in hard work. We believe
yeah. I don't believe in hard work.
going to work and working
Yeah, I
for
don't believe
what
in going
you
to work. That's why I had a job, yeah.
not asking for handouts.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
From people who
100%.
never had slaves. Some of the people that you're asking for money from never had slaves.
yeah,
and let's talk about the fact that we're
Okay,
also
we'll first address this first. Like this idea, oh well, I never owned a slave. That's not how this works. We're not punishing you. This is a problem with the conservatives and white people who get this offended don't realize that sometimes your tax dollars go to other people's benefit and are used to make up for historical injustice. Like that's not ridiculous. Like, there are tax dollars that you pay that go to other people all the time, whether you are working. You pay that money. This is the whole thing with student loans too. And you pay that money to help forgive someone's student loan debt. You could pay that. Of course, conservatives are against that. But we also have things such as the first-time home buyer's credit, in which someone's tax dollars, including a student who's in college who pays taxes, might go to you so you spend less money on your home, or you're investing in public roads, or you're investing in public schools, even if you send your kids to private school. There's so many examples of you not directly benefiting from your tax dollars. And if you're white, then yeah, you wouldn't directly benefit in the sense of reparations as you get the money because you weren't wronged in the same way that black people were. Like, this is not that complicated of an idea, and it's also not blaming white people today for the sins of their ancestors. That's not at all what this is about. That's what they want to make it about, because once again, they reduce the problem to their contrived notion of it. They're simplistic, their moronic version, because they can't wrap their head around a more complicated version, and they pretend like that's what we're doing. It's a straw man. It's an easy straw man. You build up a stupid position that your opponent doesn't hold, and then knock it down because it's easy to knock down. No one's arguing, because it's really easy to sell to people, of course, because if you went into a conversation saying you are personally responsible for slavery as a white person today, yeah, that's ridiculous. And no one says that. We're saying, okay, the U.S. government wronged people in the past. The U.S. government has a responsibility to repair the harm that was done. The U.S. government gets money from taxing its citizens like it did back then, and it taxes its citizens now. Therefore, that tax money from its citizens, which is how the government operates, then will be used to repair the harm. Like, it's not an individual blame. I'm not coming up to you and just stealing your money because you're white and giving it to a black person. No, that's not what reparations are. Of course, but conservatives like to make it a straw man, make it ridiculous and paint it that way so that their base and most of those people who don't read, don't look outside their media ecosystem, think that's what it is. It's such a big problem. It's such a big problem. I'm going to say this on both sides of the political spectrum, in that people are not able to understand their opponent's position charitably. They don't. I would say this on hot button issues, regardless of what the issue is. How well can you represent your opponent's argument? Even if you think it's stupid, even if you think, I can't believe anyone would believe that, try to construct it in the best light possible. Because in order to be confident in your position, you have to know your opponent's position better than they do. And I think a lot of people, especially these conservatives, don't know what the arguments for reparations are because they're mischaracterizing what reparations are. Because conservative media has characterized them as such, so that we don't even talk about the problem because they're convinced, okay, that what we're doing is we're just blaming white people as individuals for what happened and not the government, which existed then and exists now. So I don't know. I don't want to get too off topic, and this video will probably go forever if I keep rambling. We're only 12 minutes in, but let's continue.
Black people that had slaves. So if you want to talk about that, how is that fair? If I'm a white person and my family fall on the side of the Union, why should I have to pay for slaves when this whole country was never all racist? Some of the founding fathers were abolitionists, and they hated slavery, and they actually put things in the Declaration of Independence and things too because they believed that there'll be a future.
I'm sure. And Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence and also raped and fathered children with one of his slaves. Yeah, totally. Yeah, all men are created equal, yet they literally had to justify the dehumanization of people in order to fix the this is really, I want to talk about this, in order to wrestle with the cognitive dissonance between writing a document that says all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain certain unalienable rights. You have to necessarily dehumanize the people who you're denying those rights to, because if they're people, then according to your ideals, they deserve that rights. If they're not people, then you don't have to give them rights. And that's what happened. So that just in general, I want to point this out because it's something that's said a lot by conservatives. Well, everyone had slaves, okay? There was slaves all over the world, okay? This was not unique. Yes, it was. It was unique. Because even slaves, we're talking about the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, under Genghis Khan, any of those empires, okay? Yeah, was there slavery? Yes. Was it bad? Yes. But it wasn't racialized. And the reason that matters is because they didn't come up with literally a fake science called phrenology, a pseudoscience, to justify why these people deserve to be enslaved. They didn't do that. Okay, what they did is they basically were just pretty upfront with it. And we're like, hey, okay, you are born into a poor family. We have more power than you. We're going to enslave you. And because we want you to work for us. Yeah, you're human, but we don't give a shit. In a way, that's actually better because you're not denying someone the humanity. You're just saying, yeah, you're human. We don't really care. We're going to use our power in that way. This is worse because this dehumanized people on the basis of race. And because of our founding principles that we put forward, being in direct contradiction to a system of slavery, we had to necessarily dehumanize the people who were enslaved. They couldn't be people. They had to be 3/5 of a person. They couldn't be a full person. Because if they were a full person, then they would be deserving of rights and would have inalienable rights based on the founding document. So, yeah, I think it's just an important note to make, and we can continue.
They put things in the Declaration of Independence and things too because they believe that there'll be a future where there would be a black president one day, or that there would be people in leadership.
Hold on, black president. Someone brought up black president. I pointed that out earlier. Someone was going to bring it up. Hold on.
Future where there would be a black president one day, or that there would be people in leadership that were black. There was people in the North who helped with the Underground Railroad and fought with the Union. So why is that fair for people who never had slaves, who fought against slavery, to have to pay for people that had slaves?
That's what the government does.
From my understanding, you are more interested in preserving the fairness of those who didn't have slaves than the fairness of those who are the descendants of slaves. That is priority to you than finding a fair way to accommodate those who have been the descendant of slaves.
Well, our ancestors wasn't asking for handouts. They were asking for equal opportunity, and we have equal opportunity in this country. We had a black president.
There we go.
You didn't know.
Boom.
We had a black president.
Thank you. I got it right. Okay. Thank you. That's what they always bring up. Black president, no slavery. Except they don't like the black president. They didn't like the first female and black vice president. Like, using them as examples when they fucking hate those people is so ironic and stupid for all the reasons I've discussed before. There you go. Black president, no racism. He brought it up. Where's that bingo card? Should I start making bingo cards? Comment down below in the comment section if I should make a bingo card before these of all the things I think these people are going to say. And then just check them off when they do. I think that'd be kind of funny. That would definitely be on the bingo card. Someone say that there's no racism because black president. No racism because Obama. We'll put that on there. Check it off if you're following at home with the bingo card you made. We got that one checked off. You can make your own bingo card. What do you think? Let me know what you have on that bingo card in the comments.
And we had a black vice president. I mean, I
There we
think
go.
she was black. They said she was
Oh,
black.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know. So we had
This is so fascinating that conservatives don't understand being biracial. Like, even like a room full of people of color don't understand that you can be biracial. I don't really think she's black. She's Indian. Or she never talked about being black. Like, what? Oh, it's just exhausting. I mean, it's racism, you know. Once again, the people who say that there's no racism engage in it constantly. But like, it's so stupid. Like, like, why can't? Sorry, would be a crude way to say it. Like, it's mind-boggling that their racism is so stupid. All racism is stupid. Let me be clear. Okay, don't clip me there. We should have smart racism. No, I'm not saying that. But like, it's not even a good argument. You can't even understand how someone would wrap their head around it. It's just plain stupid. It's just plain whites were Native Americans and there was no such thing as redlining. That level of stupid is saying that Kamala Harris, I don't know if she's black. Like, what? Just because you don't like her? Like, I don't. That's the thing with conservatives. They're always like, oh, well, liberals always like a black person or want to listen to black people until it's Candace Owens. And now you're just like, oh, you know, like Kamala Harris, is she really black? Because you don't like her? Like, I don't. Stupid.
we had a black president,
Oh,
and
Jesus.
you know who voted for
Move
that black
on.
man? White people, because you can't win a
Yeah.
popular election in this country
Oh my
without
God.
white people.
So true.
So Barack
So true,
Obama
King.
is the product of white people. So
Sure.
so let's not
Yeah.
get off this thing where
Oh, yeah.
America is so racist. What's
Yeah.
making America so racist is people
Talking
that
about race?
continue to talk about racism.
There we go.
And
Yeah, of
continue
course.
to focus on
We're talking about a
racism
problem.
instead
Yeah,
of
we shouldn't
focusing
talk
on
about it.
unity
Ignore it.
and bringing our country forward. People that have these liberal mindset are infecting our communities, black people, and making us victims and not victors.
Oh, yeah,
I
victim, victor.
refuse to embrace a victim mentality because that's not what our grandparents and Harriet Tubman and those people fought for. They
I'm gonna let-
fought
I'm gonna
for
let
equal
her-
Not bring up
opportunity.
Harriet Tubman's name in vain, baby. Please.
They said the
Harriet
Lord's
Tubman,
name in vain.
Harriet
The
Tubman,
Lord's name.
Harriet Tubman was literally saving her family and others from slavery.
Yeah. You know who helped her? White people.
You know who helped her?
They were on the Underground Railroad. Said, come on in.
No,
come on
you know
in.
who helped her?
Come on in. the
No,
back.
you know who helped her?
God and Harriet.
People who benefit from white supremacy. One of the things
It's a
that
lie.
we,
White
one of the-
supremacy
one
is
of
a
the-
lie.
White
No, sir,
supremacy.
that's
It's a
simply
lie.
not
There's
true.
no such- I mean, there's
if that
some-
were not the case, then
Why
we
would-
wouldn't see the continued effort of colonialism and white people placing themselves in positions of power
You
when
know
they
why
do
they-
not
Hold
have
on, hold
the
on.
power.
I would just like, this is like, she's doing a great job. Like, I don't, but like, just point out how stupid people are. Just be like, oh, there's nothing of white supremacy. So like slavery, right? Like, it's just not a thing. It didn't. Well, you know, are you saying black people were never dehumanized? What about the Three-Fifths Compromise? Do you know what that is? Like, I don't. Like, just point out how stupid that is. And maybe he might walk it back, but like, well, no, of course white supremacy has been a thing in the past, but it's no longer. And then you can go from there, but then you're like showing how absurd their positions are. Like, I don't know. It's a really interesting thing to watch her debate, because I can tell that she's debating to the people at home and not them, because she's not using verbiage that they would be responsive to, because they're too big of words for them to understand. But like, you know, she's speaking in the talk of, you know, someone who already has her position and mindset. So I'm not saying she's doing anything wrong. She's just fine. She's speaking to the audience and the platform, which makes sense and kind of is what you do. But I wouldn't use a bunch of words like, you know, like, what's the right way to put it? Like, she's not wrong in what she's saying, but like, there's a way to say things that people who have been trained to have their ears perk up when they hear colonialism, white supremacy, like wokeness or something like that. I mean, liberals don't use the word woke, or people on the left like her don't use that word, but like, they're instantly going to tune you out. Is it stupid? Yes. But you can also craft your message in a way that maybe they'll be more receptive to, which you might be in your interest if you are on like a one-on-one conversation and actually trying to change their mind. You're never going to change this dude's mind if he, you know, it's just, no. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting at. I'm not trying to say she's doing anything wrong. I just think there's different approaches in debate. And she's taking the approach of appealing to the people who already agree with her by using the terminology that they are familiar with and are already sympathetic to. Those people, and by that group, I mean the people who are sympathetic to the truth. But sometimes you have to craft your message in a way that gets around all of the hurdles and brain blocks that they have been propagandized into having up, because they don't even want to think about colonialism, lie, white supremacy, lie, DEI, terrible, awful. You know, like, if you, any of those words, they've been made toxic by the right for that mindset. So, you know, I don't know. It's really a really interesting way to get people to agree to your positions. I mean, like, let me give an example of like how you could craft a message in a way that would be more effective to conservatives. So as an example of this, like my friend's uncle a while ago. I remember we were having a conversation. He's very conservative, and you know we were talking about politics. And he recently was eligible for Medicare, so he turned 65, and he like just completely just got a knee replacement. I think he had carpal tunnel in both his wrists, so he got those replaced. And you know he was like, oh my gosh, like that was I needed that so bad. You know, it was just so, you know, I was so miserable. And I had thought about, like, you know, like, because we're having a conversation about healthcare, and there were two ways I could go with that. I could have said, don't you wish everyone had access to the care you just got? Which is universal, which is, you know, appealing to some sort of empathy, which conservatives often lack in many cases. So I said something different. I said, wouldn't you have loved to have been able to have that 10 years ago? Because that's what Medicare for All would have done. He wouldn't have had to wait to the age of 65 to get that treatment. So, like, yeah, you're appealing to the values that they hold. In that example, the value of selfishness and the fact that conservatives don't give a fuck about other people very often, and they don't want their tax dollars to go to helping other people. Like, they're against things like school lunch, which is fucking wild. They would rather give their tax dollars to corporations than, you know, children eating food. But yeah, so just interesting ways to craft messages. Okay, she's obviously not trying to convince him there, but, like, I don't know, different ways to do it. Rhetoric and argumentation is very interesting. Yeah.
Power because their culture, black culture, is toxic. The black culture is toxic. We have produced a culture that is toxic. And let's get on the fact that there's no fathers in the black home. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Stop.
Let's talk about that.
None of this is gonna work if y'all are just gonna sit here and make up shit.
It's
not gonna work. No, a debate has to be in facts.
You're putting off emotional liberalism right now.
I am not putting off emotional liberalism. You're putting off unfounded lies based in conservatism.
Misinformation. Remember, they did the misinformation thing all summer,
anti-intellectual.
where everything
Look
conservatives
did.
They said
You're carrying a chain around your neck of an apartheid nation that actively wants to harm black people and non-Jewish people. But let me bring it back.
Let me bring it back. Selling black people in Africa.
That was not happening in the context that you're saying.
And they were selling their own people. Black people still sell their own people today too, by the way.
I don't know if I'm going to last.
We're selling our own people today too.
I don't know if I'm going to last.
You probably won't last with me.
I won't, because your ignorance is so overwhelming.
See, that's liberals. Y'all start name calling when y'all getting defeated in an argument.
Calling. You won't have an argument because you keep cutting me off.
Oh, well, that's fine if they don't let me come back. I made my point.
You didn't make your point.
I made my point.
You haven't made your point. And let me just tell you about your point. You started off saying, we believe in hard work.
Yeah.
And we believe in being compensated.
Reparations is not, though. Reparations is not hard work. It's stealing. It's Robin Hood.
You said you believe in hard work.
Yes.
And you believe in being compensated for hard work.
Yes.
Were slaves compensated for their work?
They weren't compensated for their work. But why should people who are sitting at home playing video games, smoking marijuana?
Are you sitting at home playing a video game?
Sure, yeah,
are you sitting at home playing a video game?
The people that they're wanting
Am
reparations for.
I sitting at home playing a video game?
Do you think that's what most black people
And I don't know
do?
who these people are that you're talking about, because the majority of the black community is not sitting at home playing video games.
The majority of the black community is doing a lot of things.
Where are you getting that statistic?
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
I knew I was going to be surrounded by ignorance, but damn, let's go. Hello. My hand's wet from the water.
My hands are sweaty because I'm nervous. We both got sweaty hands. Okay. So I just wanted clarity because I think it'd be helpful. You said radical. I wanted just clarity on that. And then also with the reparations, you said it's not just money, it's other things. I just want to know, like, what do you see as like the grand picture of what would help?
The grand picture of what would help?
Of reparations, like what does that look like to you?
Oh, great. Reparations, what reparations looks like to me is a combination of reparations and remunerations. And reparations are about repair for damages that have been caused based on harm. Remunerations is a monetary response to work that has not been paid for. So if you come and paint my house and I don't pay you, you can take me to court and get remunerations for the work that you have done. So we're actually owed both in this nation as black people, and there are incredibly just clear-cut records that show the buying and selling and purchasing of slaves, the work that was done, also the intellectual property that was stolen from slaves, right? Because there was so much inventing that was happening. And there is also quite a bit of other reparations that are being discussed as it relates to property being stolen, as it relates to, again, redlining and the inability for Black people to get loans, et cetera. And these impediments being solely based on their race.
As far as like discrimination.
Yes, like they're being solely based on their race, it not being about anything other than you're Black, so you can't, right? And so when it's very clear cut like that, there are very distinctive responses to that can be done through a cash payment, as well as through measures that are being done to create funds for creating resources and responses like housing, like access to food, access to education, et cetera, that certain communities have not had access to because of the fallout from these things.
And I just had a quick question for clarifying. With the funds, I'm wondering, where do you think those should come from? Like the actual money, like is that we're raising money? Is it taxes? Like what does that look like?
Well, I think what they've been doing with these different reparations committees is they're looking at, all right, well, how much has this city or how much has this town or how much has this country gained from the estimated amount that was stolen from these people, right? So they're looking at like, what is this wage amount? For instance, like if you look at during that time, okay, what was the wage amount that a hired worker would get for this same work? All right. And so we're looking at how was that wage not provided and what is that pool that is being created? And then we're looking at, all right, where can that wage come from in terms of how has that wage been applied? So there are spaces where this is very clear. I think the last thing that you asked about was the difference between liberal and radical.
Yeah, please.
Ultimately, the concept of liberalism is really just not Republican, right? I mean, that's essentially what it's become.
I would disagree with that, but I understand
disagree with that too.
There's a very generic concept of what liberalism is in the sense that it's simply saying that I am a part of the bipartisan mind frame, but I am not a Republican. It's a mindset. It doesn't always show up in action, but it's a mindset that says, you know, I don't support extremes in certain ways, or, you know, I want the government to show up in certain ways. You know, I know there's a conservative point of view that says there should be less government, but even though it just says that, the action is very different. The radical mind state simply is living opposite to our colonizers, which is an imperialist, capitalist mind state, and radical Blacks do not believe that that is any way for us to have liberation.
Thank you for explaining that.
And thank you for being very
good for her to listen to that.
We were told to be respectful. We're not your enemies.
Thank you, my good.
Yeah, okay. I'm probably going to do a surrounded advertisement of this podcast. Talk about a few things there. I mean, I disagree with her a little bit on that liberal is just not Republican. Like that, no. I mean, liberalism, you know, liberalism was born out of neoliberalism, this idea, this embrace of free markets, this embrace that the market is the best way to allocate resources, and we just need to have it properly regulated, and liberals very often want there to be, she was talking about a little bit stronger social safety net, conservatives are against that, but there's so many different things about liberalism. I mean, it's fundamentally an ideology of status quo. It's fundamentally an ideology of the system as it is set up is a good system. We just need to reform. I mean, it's reform versus revolution kind of like sort of thing. Liberals are for reform. So I think it was a little bit of an oversimplification of saying liberal is just not Republican. A little bit more to that there. And neoliberalism, I would say that there can be both liberals and conservatives nowadays who are neoliberals. There's also neoconservatives who often have more conservative social views, are more war hawkish. So I don't disagree with kind of what she said. And now, also to be fair to her, you have a limited amount of time, so you're gonna maybe cut things down a bit. But yeah. No, don't have time, John.
Crime is a result of.
Okay.
My next claim is that black on black crime is a result of underinvestment and over policing.
There you go. That's very true. Absolutely. Oh, got Austin.
So you say that black on black crime is due to underfunding and over-policing, essentially.
Yes.
I actually don't necessarily disagree with one of those.
Okay.
I think that, however, the government, who do you think should be responsible for the funding piece of the black community? Should that be something that the government should step into, or should that be something that we as black people need to handle ourselves? Dr. Jordan Peterson and even Thomas Sowell and several others have stated one thing, that poverty and crime, there's a positive...
Thomas Sowell, conservatives love him because he's a black conservative intellectual, if you want to call him that, who compared Obama to Hitler and stuff like that. No, Thomas Sowell should not be taken seriously at all. No, I've read some of his work. No, like it is lunacy to suggest in many of his writings as well that like that we should not even address certain disparities at all because they might just be like natural, or there might be some disparities. I acknowledge that there are some benign disparities. Like not every disparity is a result of discrimination, but he goes so far as to say that to make up for that discrimination is to compound further oppression, which is lunacy. And Jordan Peterson, I don't even have to explain why bringing him up in this context is ridiculous.
Correlation. There's also a positive correlation in the black community.
Hold on, he said that
poverty and crime, there's a positive correlation.
Correct.
There's also a positive correlation in the black community of absentee fatherism being one of the root causes leading into criminality.
Why are the fathers
black males
gone?
who grew up without a father are 10 times more likely to engage in criminal
the
activity.
Next question.
And so I think one of the...
Can I put a pin right there and ask you a question?
There we go.
Whatever you like.
What is the root cause
There we go.
of there being less fathers present?
Bad decision making on the part of the fathers.
Okay.
We live in a patriarchal system. Like it or not, men have dominated the socioeconomic, economic, and political power of this country and the world since our existence. So our bad decision making, especially when we focus on the black community, is the root cause of fatherlessness.
What type of decisions?
Not marrying the women we decide to lay down and have children with. Not being careful with the seeds that we plant in women. No woman can get pregnant without a man planting his seed inside of her. So therefore,
so it's marriage.
Well, that's a part of it. That's marriage is a part of it.
Okay.
But the true piece that I'm looking at is connectedness between familial units. The black community was at its economically strongest while being at its poorest during the segregation era.
Was at its economically strongest while also being at its poorest during the segregation era. What? Sorry, how can they be economically strongest and poorest?
Prior to 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King in his last speech said that we have an annual income of more than $30 billion a year, which is more than all of the exports of Canada and more, or more than all of the exports of the United States and more than the national budget of Canada. That was when we were economically at our poorest. Yet 85% of our black children were growing up with a father in the home. There was less black on black crime. There was less disenfranchisement.
Why was there less black on black crime?
Because we needed to live together. We had to stick by each other. We had to stick
What
by
was
each
there
other.
also less of?
I'm not sure where you're leading. That's a leading question. I don't like those.
You don't like this?
I don't like leading questions. No, I like direct stuff.
So essentially, when we were living in our own communities, we were also policing our own communities. So we were not being used as statistics in the same way to determine how resources were provided to our own communities. When we were going to the government saying, hey, we deserve because we are supposed to be separate but equal, we weren't saying, hey, we want to be with y'all. We were essentially saying, we want what you are stating we deserve. And that is what all of the efforts of the civil rights movement has been. It's literally just been to say, you said when we got out of the Civil War that we would be considered citizens. And all citizens should be getting equal access to these things. However, you are actively allowing the Klan to harm us. You are actively allowing...
Who's killed more black people, the Klan or us?
I would like to continue my statement.
I want to point something out that I maybe disagree with her a little bit about. She's saying that like, oh, the civil rights movement, they just wanted equal. They would have been fine with segregation still if there were actually equal accommodations. No, I mean, absolutely not. I mean, that's Plessy versus Ferguson. That Supreme Court case set the standard of separate but equal. But Brown v. Board of Education overturned that and said that separate is inherently unequal. That segregating people, even if it's quote unquote equal accommodations, it's not equal. So like, no, I don't know. I think there's some, what is it called? Black separatists. I've heard of that before, who believe in separatism, that like black people should, racially segregate and go live on their own. I'm skeptical of ideologies like that of any variety. Even that, like, just, I don't think so. As a general thing, we should encourage, racial homogenization, and not people interacting with each other across difference. But no, that's not what the civil rights movement was about, and that's not even what Martin Luther King, espoused as well. Like the sons of slaves and the sons of slaveholders can like, I don't know the exact quote from the "I Have a Dream" speech, but that's not exactly the thing here that she's getting. It was not separatism. Okay, that was not what the civil rights movement. Were there people and radicals in the civil rights movement who were sympathetic to that? Yes, but I don't think characterizing the civil rights movement as a whole as a separatist movement is kind of the way to go about it. But
I let you speak uninterrupted. You did. When we talk about this concept of who is harming us, we are really making a false claim when it comes to black on black crime, as if there isn't white on white crime.
Correct.
There's also this unnecessary effort to try and pathologize black on black crime in a way that you don't try to pathologize white on white crime. There are white people killing each other every single day. Now, they may be on jet skis in the pictures after they shoot up their whole family, but nonetheless, there are white people killing each other every single day. Now, much of the reason why you may see more numbers in terms of black on black crime are for two reasons. One, the statistics be lying all the time. We have seen this.
Numbers? Okay, when you
we
say
have seen
that,
this in a real way. So in New Jersey.
When you say
in New Jersey,
what numbers can be trusted? Because with the previous speaker, you
I'm
said
about to tell you right now.
Okay, so your sources can
you
be
can't
trusted.
such number. No, I'm literally about to give you an example of numbers not being able to be trusted.
Okay, talk to me.
That's what I was doing.
I'm listening.
Okay, then listen.
Oh, my ears open.
So listen, in New Jersey, they had a statistic that was created by the police department that said, look at how many black people are committing crimes. Look at how crazy this number is. These black people are so exorbitantly violent. Look at this. And then people went and actually matched the names that they were booking with the faces of the actual people incarcerated. Okay. And it was proven that they were lying.
So that's one instance. Okay, so that's
It'd be
one
nice to
instance.
fact check. I mean, I just don't know. I don't doubt that that's true at all. Police do be lying. Yes, correct. But I wish they would just show like that study or whatever. I haven't heard of that. Like the fact checking is so stupid. Like, it's so inconsistent. I wish they would just fact check numbers claims and things like that, but they just fact check random things and don't fact check other clear statements like that. Like, I don't know. Interesting.
As a police dispatcher when I'm not making content. So here's the thing.
I see.
No. You see what?
Well,
You're about to see the truth if you just give me a second. Like Trump said, just give me a second. I'm going to do the weave, but give me a minute.
Well, here's what you all keep doing. You keep interrupting me when I'm talking, and you don't want to hear the point that I'm going to make. And yet you want me to respect your point. And that's not how a debate works. So if you want me to keep getting louder, I will do it. But ultimately, if I show you respect, give me the respect back. I let you talk. I let you make your points. I am countering your points. And my points are just as valid as yours, even though you got a pocket square and a Church of Christ pin on your chest.
It's not a Church of Christ. It's
whatever.
A cross.
It's a cross. Same difference. You got an American flag and you think you know something because you a cop. And ultimately,
not a cop. Dispatcher.
And ultimately, it's a cab all day over here. So let me make that clear. But let me also add to my point. My point is that you can sit here and blame black people on black people all day long and not acknowledge that we are forced into. You're coming to interrupt me again.
I haven't even said a word.
All right, that is flagged, so I'm gonna ask you to return to your seat.
It's a waste of my time. Y'all just want to be seen. I don't need to be seen. Hello.
How are you? I'm Jasmine, the pretty
Lady.
Say less outfit. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is my thing. I think the premise of your question was black on black crime. So I think I'm coming from a place, and I guess my issue is having had my biological father murdered by a black man, having had my cousin shot in the head by a black man. We can talk numbers and statistics and what the people are doing, what the white man is doing and all that. But at the end of the day, I see when my family lives on the south side of Chicago, and I think you and I both can attest to this, and I'm not saying that there are not other factors, but we know that we kill each other at a disproportionate rate than any other race. Now, why we do that and why 6,000 to 9,000 black men are going to be homicided or killed or whatever by the end of the year annually by other black men, whereas the likelihood of a black man being killed by a white police officer is less than 150 per year, we know that we kill each other at a higher rate. So I'm not debating that there are not factors at play, but because I've lived the experience as a black woman losing my father to be murdered by a black man, walking down the street
to hear that, by the way.
No worries, thank you. But walking down the street in inner cities and different things, knowing that it's more likely that my own brother will rob and rape me than a white man or a white officer, we gotta be real.
What's your proximity to white men?
Thank you.
In the south side of Chicago? Are there even white men around to rob and rape you at the same rate that there are black men?
There are white men around.
At the same rate?
There wasn't a lot of black people in there, but then that doesn't justify the fact that we're destroying each other.
No,
so even if we
it's just proximity. Thank you. I don't want to cut her off.
Like
wait, we can agree on that,
okay,
sis.
because I feel like a lot of
Nothing
times liberals will argue like, well,
I'm not
the
a
white people
liberal.
are killing
I am
people.
I'm not a liberal.
Okay, well, I will say that people that sometimes have your stance that are against conservatives, maybe they have this claim that they're making it up, they're making up the numbers. We know that we do that to each other. So I want to get to the root of the issue. Why are we killing each other? I think the root of the issue is we've lost our values and we've lost our resilience as black people. We sit there and we talk about what the white man did and we talk about slavery and everything like that, but we have no self-accountability and say, you know what, at the end of the day, that is my black grandmother, that is my black sister sister. You are my black sister. And you know that a black man is more likely to rob you or commit some type of crime against you. And that's what we need to get down to the issue of. And like you were talking about earlier, like, hey, well, what's going on? You know, what do you think the answer is to one of the brothers that were speaking? I think it's the breakdown of the family. I think, like he said, because of our poor choices, and what happens is we look at domestic violence, for example. When domestic violence, women or men are even attacked, what is the first thing we say? It's like, you know what? It's not your what? It's not your fault. So that's what we do. We hold on to this narrative that, well, it's not our fault, and the issues in our community, they're not our fault, and the white man needs to give us something. The old white lady down the street is looking at me, and I don't know why she got braids in her hair. And we focus on all these other stupid things that don't matter. We don't get to the root of the fact that we're killing each other at a higher rate than any other race. It is self-hatred amongst us. I believe that we can do that. That we, my mom's cousin, coming from the church parking lot, and guess who stuck her up and robbed her at gunpoint? A black man.
Sure.
I need you to get to the point.
Like, hold on. I want to point something out first, but it's not because she's black. Like, do you understand that's different? Like, it's not this is not racialized violence. It's just crime. It's just crime because people live near each other, and when people exist, there will be crime. Like, this is a stupid argument. Like, I don't know. Like, you just, I don't know. I've said enough here, but like all of this, we can also walk and chew gum at the same time. Once again, conservatives don't understand many things, but one thing they don't understand is like, well, I was going to say distributive causation, which is a lot of different factors can lead to a particular phenomenon, such as crime, such as the current state of America. But sorry guys, I lost my train of thought. Give me a second. I'm tired. Let me just keep playing the video and I'll get back to what I was thinking.
Point is that and I'm not trying to be funny, and let's, like you said, we're gonna keep it respectful.
Yeah, but you're monopolizing the whole conversation.
I'm
We're
not trying.
being
Okay, I'm
able
gonna let
to
you speak, but let's not get the attitudes and stuff, because you're my sister and I respect you. So
I don't have an attitude. I'm being direct to you, but you're literally speaking this, and you're not going to do that with me either.
Okay,
so you're
I'm
stating your
respecting
point, and you've been stating your point for quite some time.
So
do you have a reason for me to respond?
Would you allow me to respond? So that's a better response. Go ahead.
The response that I have for you is that everything you're saying does not exist in a vacuum. I actually agree with you in that, yes, there has been an incredible denigration of Black worth and Black pride in this nation. I think it's also very important to acknowledge what has contributed to that. And to state that it is only Black people that have contributed to that is a false flag. So we have to admit that. So in order to have this conversation around how we got here, you can't say, oh, well, we're caring about the white woman getting braids and that doesn't matter and this thing. All of that attaches. All of that is actually a very big part of the lack of worth of Black people.
I'll ask you, do you think we're resilient? What does resilience mean to you? Do you think we have to be perpetual victims, or do you think that Black people are resilient?
I think that those are two different conversations. I think they're...
Can we dispel with this idea of like victim mentality sort of thing? Like, you can acknowledge the existence of oppression. You can acknowledge the existence of facing injustice and not be a victim. No one, once again, this is conservative strawmanning, like they always do. No one on the left is in favor of telling anyone who's Black, oh, there's nothing you can do about it. You might as well, the system's just fundamentally against you and you'll never succeed. No, that's not what you say. It's like, hey, there are a lot of barriers in place. There are a lot of examples of systemic racism that make life harder for Black Americans, but I believe you can succeed. I will support you, and you can succeed in spite of that. Okay, no one's saying that, but if we do see that poverty is an indication of crime, and if people are in poverty, they don't have the same opportunities and access to a quality job and healthcare and education, the list goes on, and they act predictably in that situation, we're like, okay, this is not like shocking. It's not the fault of them necessarily. They're acting like any humans do when put in that situation. We saw this at the turn of the 20th century with the Irish Americans. Irish Americans faced discrimination nowhere close to the equivalent that Black people did, but we saw similar behaviors develop out of them. We saw that gang violence emerged because they were forced into ghettos. Like, it's not shocking to see that this would happen, but you can do two things at the same time: believe in accountability, believe that people should not do something, and also that there are serious systemic issues. Like, I think there was a really good quote from Michael Brooks, and it was, analysis is not justification. So we can acknowledge that there's higher rates, or that, there are many factors that lead to a disproportionate rate of crime within inner cities, and very often among Black people. The reason that is the case is the result of, historical injustices, redlining that pack them into those, areas, and then gang culture emerges is like one of the only ways to get ahead, or the most prevalent way to get ahead, especially if that's ingrained. We can acknowledge that. Doing that does not preclude or like say that, yeah, really, if the gang kills someone, that's a good thing, or it's justified. No, we can understand sociologically why it might happen, while also not justifying it. See how we can do that? Conservatives think that, if you try to understand why something would happen, it'd be like, yeah, gang violence emerges. It emerges when people are socioeconomically disenfranchised, forced to live in close proximity to one another. Like, crime is linked to poverty, very much so. So, yeah.
I think that the concept of Black people being victims is really trying to not provide accountability to where the root problem for the actual cause is. And if we keep saying that somebody is a victim and that doesn't mean that the other person should have to actually have accountability, then what are we really doing? You can do both. You can be a victim and be resilient.
How do you do both if you stay in the victimhood? That's my question.
But your statement about Black people staying in the victim place is also your point of view.
But how do we rise above it?
We continue to rise above it by, one, pouring into our communities with mutual aid, but two, by simultaneously making sure that we are challenging the systems that are in place to impede us. We have so many opportunities where we are trying to do mutual aid, and those things get disrupted by folks who want to have capitalist gain, by folks who want privatization. We used to have all these mom and pop businesses in our communities.
There's over 3 million Black millionaires in America right now. You are an intelligent Black woman that is successful.
That's irrelevant.
No one's stopping me from doing anything. I'm an intelligent Black woman that graduated and is successful.
Many efforts have tried to stop me from doing what I do. We are not all equal in our capabilities. And we are not all equal in our ability to be invested in by others.
I agree with
we
you.
are not all equal in our trauma.
Are we resilient?
We can't say because it is a false equivalency.
I believe that every Black person has resilience. From slavery all the way up to
we keep trying to cause.
I'm so sorry. You've been voted out.
Seen this guy
First, I want to kind of get rid of this like right-left ordeal. I really want to talk about just like our own personal views and what we've experienced, what we've seen. And when it comes to your claim about Black on Black crime, I really do believe, and I think a lot of people here do believe, especially based off of personal experiences and everything, that it is just lack of accountability. In the Black community, we need to start taking responsibility for our actions and stop pointing our fingers at other people and the white man. Because to be honest—
Why can't both happen at the same time? Both are causes.
Because you got to clean your own house before you go complain.
Why?
Distributive causation.
If you're dirtying my house, if you keep pouring shit into my house and I'm cleaning it, why can't I do both? Why can't I clean my house and bar the windows from you shitting on my house?
It begins with responsibility within us. If we're like, okay, the white person's doing this to me, the white person's doing that, we're not going to ever come to the core of the issue.
They are.
We need to take responsibility.
And it's not even just the white person, because now we have seen very many races, people of very many backgrounds that are actively participating in the effort to keep a working class down. Like that is absolutely a fact. It's not just white people. So I don't attend to that. But I will say the reality of there being systems in place is real. Over-policing is a real thing. You know what's also been really real is the effort of violence interruption in certain communities, right? So we've seen this in Detroit, we've seen this in New York, we've seen this in Baltimore, where there are communities that have said, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be like a neighborhood watch for our community. So that before the popo even come, before 12 even rolls up in here, we're gonna actually put ourselves in between the conflict and calm it down. And that has been incredibly effective. But you know what? It's not funded. It's not funded. And you would think that like city councils and mayors and governors would say, shit, you know what? This is going to save us so much money. Because why? Taxpayers keep having to pay for the fault of these police officers. And even though we say, well, only a certain number of people have died, that doesn't dispel the fact that a large amount, more Black people are imprisoned than any other group in this nation. And that is not by accident.
Again, I started with accountability, and it just seemed like
But I disagree with you.
No,
I don't disagree with you.
Because here's the thing: look at our media. Look at rap. Look at what we're glorifying.
You're right.
We're glorifying violence.
Who's we? Who's we? Who's
the Black community?
Who controls the
Black community?
Who controls the distribution of these sources of media?
And who takes it in?
And
who takes it in?
Listen, if you're okay, so let me put it in this context. If I have a company, right, and you guys are my employees, and I determine what you get to eat every day, that's also going to determine how you exist in this company, right? Like if you come to work and I say the only thing you can eat is processed foods and fried foods and you're not going to get to have the best vegetables, etc. What's that going to affect? your health, that's going to affect your ability to operate, etc. This is how the United States operates. There's a lot of us that don't want to admit that as much as accountable as we want to be, all of our brains also don't operate the same way. Some of us are much more apt to be indoctrinated than others. That's a fact. There is a 1% of people that knows this. There's a whole show called Mad Men that's about advertising, etc. And if we don't acknowledge multiple things at the same time, then we simply cannot stop it. We can be as accountable as we want to be. And I hope that if you're right, because I hope you're right, I wish that it was a situation where if black people could just be accountable, then nothing else would matter. But unfortunately, that hasn't been the case, because we have seen when we have Black Wall Street in Tulsa and we have Black Wall Street in Durham, that when we actually do hold our own and build our own communities, they will still come and run it down.
Pause.
Yep.
You've been voted out. Please return
Good
to your
point.
seat.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Joshua.
Hello, Joshua.
Yeah. So I have two claims I want to settle. So I'm originally from New Orleans, right? And I've seen black on black crime my whole life, right?
Yes.
I don't believe it have nothing to deal with the police. It's more with the community, because there's a lot of pride that's in that city, where to the point where this person can't tell me nothing, I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna take him out.
Yeah.
It's that simple in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Now in Cali it's probably the same way, but I feel like every state is different. You probably the way how your belief is might be right? But in New Orleans, it's a little different. Also, my second claim is this: we proclaim so much about Black Lives Matter, but when it comes down to a white person killing a black person, it's a big deal. It just don't make no sense to me.
Do you know what the statement Black Lives Matter is actually stating?
Yeah, well, just started off from George Floyd.
Start off from Mike Brown.
Yeah.
Mike Brown.
No,
Okay.
So
Trayvon Martin,
Black Lives
I think,
Matter
before
is
that.
really simply just stating that when black people are murdered by the police, that our lives should matter. And that oftentimes it is not considered. It is oftentimes presented as we deserved it, or we must have done something to cause it, and that our lives are disposable. We also don't ever see true justice on the same level as others when the police incur violence against black people. So Black Lives Matter is a statement asserting that our lives are worth justice, our lives are worth preservation, and we have seen in innumerable instances a level of restraint operated between the police and people of other races that they do not seem to carry with black people. So that's what Black Lives Matter means. It doesn't mean that anyone else's life doesn't matter. It means that ours matter just as much as their lives.
That's good that you cleared it out for people.
Yeah, it's good. I mean,
I appreciate
I'm
you.
glad that's good. I'm glad he was listening to that. I think also, it fails to acknowledge that Black Lives Matter, saying that it's as an organization and as like a statement, is a movement. Of course, they believe that Black Lives Matter in other contexts. That's not what that organization is fighting for directly. They're fighting to stop the over-policing and killing of black people at the hands of law enforcement. Like saying that why doesn't BLM care about black on black crime is like saying why doesn't the American Heart Association care about cancer? It's like they're two separate issues, okay? Like they're entirely separate, and there are different organizations that are designed to address different issues. So like it's that they don't understand. Yeah, I don't know.
As it comes to New Orleans, tell me this. Well, first of all, it was I think it's the senator of Louisiana who literally made a campaign ad, Kennedy it was, that said, do you want Louisiana to be run by crackheads? Like he said that, like straight
they
up.
have a bunch of them there. Yeah. They
So
do.
here's my question about New Orleans. Would you say that New Orleans gets, that particular areas of New Orleans, for instance, like the Ninth Ward?
The Ninth Ward's crazy, but I'm just saying they crazy.
Would you say that funding and attention is dispersed equally across New Orleans in terms of resources? Because I know that from living through Katrina that is absolutely not the case.
I agree with you in that case. Everybody's not equal when it comes down to resources. For sure, I agree with you.
Here's the thing I want to just impart is that I think that we have a very distorted version of what resiliency and what restorative practice is, because we live in a time where we're seeing so many things happen so fast. So like we've seen technology like advance so fast, right? Like we have seen just our lives shift so fast that I think that we forget that as humans, our ability to recalibrate, to heal from trauma is simply not the same as the things that we are watching in technology. And so we cannot just casually think that people just get over things. Katrina, people in New Orleans are still reeling from Katrina.
Yeah, they are. That's true. That's true.
That
is true.
So
yeah,
when we talk about the amount of crime and violence that is still living and happening explicitly in Katrina, we have to also talk about the amount of trauma, the amount of drug use, the amount of policing, the amount of all of these things that
Just
physically harm
distributive
people
causation.
across the world, not just in the United States, across the world, in communities that are not being served, and how those communities never get the chance to quote unquote pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
Yeah, I agree. I personally agree. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
that
for
was
sure.
fun.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Thanks, Josh.
No problem.
Good on him to listen. All right, and Sam, of course, I do want right-wing fact checking. Okay.
Reality backed by data and history. My next claim is systemic racism isn't a theory. It's our lived reality
Oh.
backed by data and history.
Here we go. Okay, can we? Yeah, that's the most obvious thing
John.
that shows.
John
up there.
Samuel.
Hello, John Samuel. First name. All right.
Blame my parents.
Hi, parents.
I want to listen to you first. Why do you feel that? Why do you feel that way?
Oh, John went to debate training before he came here. Okay. Ultimately, I feel that way because it's simply just facts. It's in the books, and that's why there have been laws to challenge it. There have been innumerable instances where actual systems were created specifically for the impediment of Black people to advance. We have also seen innumerable instances where there were things created for Black people to advance, and they were taken back under the auspices of, we don't want them to advance. Ultimately, systemic racism exists in our institutions on a government level, in our institutions, whether it's prisons or schools, and it is undeniable because they are actively trying to reinstate it right now.
Can you give me an example of one of those systems that you believe perpetuates that cycle of racism? Redlining? Okay.
Yes.
And how does that, can you elaborate? Like, how is that affecting the Black community?
Do you know what redlining is?
I know a little bit. I'm not an expert.
Redlining was a system that was created to determine property values, and that said Black people can only live in certain neighborhoods and not in other neighborhoods. And the redlining lowered the property values of those Black neighborhoods by stating that they were more savage, that they were more dangerous, etc. Thus, they were not able to own property that was on a level of par to their white counterparts. There were also many efforts at just simply not allowing Black people to get loans for property, putting them in predatory scenarios where they were being essentially unable to own land. And that inability to own land, but still having to pay out a mortgage, if you will, or a rent, continued to put Black people in a conundrum of not being able to excel at the same economic rate as their white counterparts.
Correct. What I'm hearing from you,
I want to add a few things to that. Everything you said, amazing. Yeah, part of it as well is when you deny someone a home loan, when you don't let someone buy a house, you stop them from being able to build equity in their house. And a majority of Americans, their most valuable asset is their home. And many people pass down their house to their children. And if you don't have that, you're not able to pass down that generational wealth. There's many, many, many examples of that within education. Predominantly Black schools receive $23 billion less in funding than predominantly white schools. So the examples go on and on. I mean, juries are 19% more likely to find a defendant guilty if that defendant is Black, if they darken the skin. They've done blind studies on this where they literally have the same case information and just change the race of the perpetrator. So yeah, it's a fact. Like this is like gravity. Okay, this is like vaccines. Okay, this is not a debate. Okay, I mean, people like to have a debate. There are talking points, but there is certainly one side that is just simply wrong here, and it is his side.
It feels like in the United States that for a while we've kind of established these systems.
You said it feels. Facts over feelings, bro. Why are you saying what it feels like? Sorry, I'm being a dick. Sorry.
Foundation, and they've continued on, and they've continually just oppressed Black people, and we haven't dismantled them, and we haven't done much so they continue to complete the cycle. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Well, in many of these systems, they have been dismantled maybe in name, but because this country has never dismantled the culture of racism, they end up still living in practice. So we see that, for instance, in the way that the appraisal system works. Now, we saw there was an entire documentary on how appraisals have been also very racist, home appraisals, right? So your ability ability to sell your house for the value that it deserves.
Right.
There were a number of homes, particularly in Marin County, California, where Black people had one appraisal when they had their Blackness up. So they had their dashikis hanging, and they had their, they had their Black Good Times poster. But then when they removed all of those items and put up white people and a dog in the house, and then had their white friends come and pose as the owners of the home, the appraisal was significantly higher. And we have seen that in a number of instances.
Surprising.
Now, of course, that is just Marin County, but there are a number of other scenarios where this has been relayed. And that's why there were certain efforts by the Democratic Party to say, okay, well, we're going to try and step in for this.
I actually remember that case, and I watched it with the family, and I thought that was just really just terrible. But the problem I guess I have with systemic racism is, I guess for somebody like me, where my family comes from, the Deep South, you probably don't even know it, Aliceville, Alabama.
Okay.
That's where my grandparents are from. And my grandpa came, if you saw the house that he grew up in, I'm not trying to be funny, it looked like a slave house. It was just, they grew up in poverty. And the fact that he was able to go from that and get the highest rank enlisted in the United States Navy amidst, all these, systems, so to speak, and he was able to buy his own house out in San Diego. He was able to, pass on these things to his son, my dad, and his grandchildren. Now I'm able to get an education. I was able to get my undergrad, my master's, that, the great-great-grandson of enslaved peoples can now say that, educated and can even run for Congress. I don't see how these systems are still in place as they were before, because before I would say you do have a little bit of a foothold. You do have some validity there. But I just think these days when we call it systemic racism, really what we're calling it is those people who may still be in those institutions, those individual people who may actually be racist and hold some racist ideals, who are continuing to perpetuate this. I believe it's those people. So in all reality, the problem is not the systemic racism. The problem is us. The problem starts with us, with those people who are perpetuating these, racist ideals. And so I feel like just to attack these systems is just, it's nonsensical.
Who's running the systems?
Like which system? You're talking about
whether
Congress,
whether it's the prison industrial complex. We're seeing this now with immigration and ICE. We're seeing this also with the effort at not making schools available for equal level of schooling available with the voucher systems that are now allowing tax dollars to allow people to go to segregated schools.
Right.
Who is controlling those systems? So for instance, in Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
So in Tennessee, you have a Senate and a House of Representatives that is largely controlled by white Republicans, and that have actively said, we are not going to consider what the people want in our constituencies. We are going to simply just do what we want to do, to the point where they have removed.
So it's only in those states that have largely white legislators or largely white people are controlling these systems. I'm not trying to put
All right, guys, I'm so sorry. You have been voted out. Please return to your seat.
Thank you.
Oh, Lord.
So to go back to your claim, you basically said something about Tennessee and how they said what exactly. You said they are not in favor of what their people said, or?
Yeah, Tennessee has actively said, we're not really listening to our constituency. We're not even going to allow them in the gallery when we're voting on certain issues. So for instance, like when it comes to guns in the classroom, the constituency very largely said, we do not want guns in the classroom. And they were like, well, we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. We've also seen them actively silence members of the House of Representatives who are Black and not silence someone who is doing the exact same action who is a white woman, Gloria. Shout out to the Justins.
You are right, actually, on this aspect. I did actually remember a time where 2 Black Democrats, I believe, were actually not allowed to speak. And that was interesting. And I found that really insane, considering they're representatives of the state.
Yeah.
So no, I totally can get where you're coming from, but I don't think that's a institutionalized problem where it's a law per se. I think it's more so a personal vendetta in a way.
What's the difference if you are a lawmaker and you're exacting your personal choice through impediment of law change?
So if we're going to go based on systemic racism, it has to be institutionalized, which means it has to be written into law, made public. When it comes to that aspect, that's not necessarily made public by law. That's made public by choice and actual discrimination by person.
So I can give you an example in Tennessee.
Okay.
So for instance, in Tennessee, we can say that they are put into law that now tax dollars, people's the public tax dollars will be supporting voucher systems. The voucher systems for the schools allow parents to choose whatever school they want their child to go to using taxpayer money. And these schools can be private schools. And private schools are not in any way limited
Regulated
from
the same
creating systems of segregation. And this is actually how segregated schools was carried out previous to Brown versus Board of Education. So this is a systemic example. We also can acknowledge that systemic examples come from not always it being written into law. And I think that is a real straw man argument for the way that a lot of colorblind racism is carried out in the United States. And what happens when we do that is we ignore the fact that most of the people making the laws are not going to put their racism on the books.
Oh, that's true. Obviously not going to put on the books. But when it comes to the Civil Rights Acts of 1964, then you also want to talk about the one in 1968. They did actually give more fair housing equality.
That was the goal.
Yeah, that's true.
But you see, that's the thing. It's like if so that's the difficult part of not changing a culture. You can change the law all day, but as Martin Luther King Jr., as the Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. talks about in his final book, he says, I feel like I integrated my people into a burning house because he understood America to be a place of morality.
Well, when it came back to even back in the 1960s, like Lyndon B. Johnson actually proposed many systems in place
But
he actually
after that, people still got lynched.
Well, I can't.
Sure. I mean, I was waiting for a second to make this point. What this young man is failing to realize is the difference between de jure and de facto segregation. So direct and like on the books, and just de facto, it happens by chance, or it happens not by chance. It happens as a result of something previous. So there are many examples of this. One would be the way we fund schools. So the way we fund schools is an example of de facto segregation, because what initially happened was there was segregation through redlining. We pushed black people into neighborhoods, which devalued the property pricing. And then we'd use those tax dollars and those property values to fund the schools. And we're still doing that to this day. So just because today we're not still by law pushing black people into specific neighborhoods, like literally denying them home loans, and like literally drawing on a map, which is why it's called redlining. They would literally take a marker. Some of these urban planners or home planners would like literally just say, this neighborhood is going to be for black people. Just because they're not doing that anymore doesn't mean the remnants of it, the residue, doesn't exist. The results of it don't exist. So the result is still racist. It's this whole idea, like, imagine that, like, me and you are about to run a race, okay? And right before the race happens, I take out a gun and I shoot you in the knee, and I completely blow out and destroy your knee. Of course, terrible, awful, wrong. I've done a terrible act. I've done something so terrible. And then 10 years later, or 5 years later, you've had knee surgery, but your knee's still not as good as it was before. And I challenge you to a race, and this time I don't shoot you in the leg, and I win. And I say, I've won fair and square, okay? I know I shot you in the knee last time, but I didn't do anything to inhibit you this time. Well, yeah, but you forget the fact that when you did shoot me when I did shoot you in the knee last time, it affected your ability to run now. So when you deny African Americans home mortgages and deny them the ability to build equity in their house and have generational wealth, now that's going to lead to them having less money. Like, it's not that complicated. So just because there's not a one law that says segregation legal, black people not human, like that's such a simplistic way and just like nonsensical way to understand systemic racism. Sorry, guys, if there's background noise.
Really, like, say that's a systemic problem. That's definitely a personal heart problem. Those are more people's individual choices against someone else.
No.
But when
if
it came down to
the system that's in place does not incarcerate those people or create any repercussions for those actions, then it is systemic. Because when you don't allow for there to be repercussions for harmful behaviors of a people, you're literally saying our system is okay with this. So that's what Black Lives Matter is about, right? Saying like, okay, if police are going to act in this way, well, there should at least be fair repercussions across all people that they're doing this to, and they're not carrying out those repercussions for Black people. Why? And so the system is supporting this personal point of view that you're talking about, and that's what makes it also systemic, along with the fact that we know for a fact that the number of Black people incarcerated is greater per capita than white people. We know that Black people are having longer sentences for the same crimes than white people. That's not me making that up. Like, that is actual data.
Right,
so
pause.
Systemic is real.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. How you doing, Amanda? I'm Ryan.
Ryan. Nice
to meet you. Thanks for being here. All right. Well, what I would say is, as far as systematic racism, right? I think most of us would agree that, at the very least, it has occurred in this country.
Okay.
Right. You know, we've had slavery, we've had Jim Crow segregation, all these different things.
Yeah.
I think my argument would be that right now, in modern America, I don't think, at the very least, it's not as prevalent as it has been to where it could stop us from being successful. Okay. I would say that it's not a thing anymore where it needs to be talked about so much and so much attention focused on it. I don't think that currently there is systematic racism in a way that it's going to be harmful to us. Like I said, to stop us. If anything, really, I think institutions such as things with DEI.
What do you think DEI is?
Basically, I think that it's in a way it's racism against other races outside of blacks. And so,
where did you get that concept of it from?
I've researched a lot of things. I looked at different clips from both sides of the argument, things like that. But basically, my point is, I think that as far as systematic racism, I think that there's evidence from the other side, in that there's different things that are pushing black people up in ways that are not fair, and different things like that. Because I think that we should be merit-based. I think that should always be merit-based, and where we're in, when there's jobs and different things like that, race should not be something that's considered. And so, I think that, let's say that there are ways right now where systematic racism is still alive. Again, it's not holding us back to a point where we can still be successful. We've seen so many examples, today in modern times, where Black Americans can.
Black
there's
CEO.
no opportunities that I have that a white person, or that a white person has that I don't have. That I believe that all opportunities.
Are you sure about that? Can you actually say that?
I would say that I have every opportunity in this country to be successful, to do what I want to do, and to stand on business that every other race has. Absolutely. And
do you have the
again,
same support?
Even if I don't have the same support, I can do what I got to do.
Do you have the same support?
I probably have more. I have
the
more
same
support than
community
others.
support?
I have excellent community support.
That's
Absolutely.
lucky for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Where did you grow up, in a lower income, middle income, high income community?
It was middle income.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I think that even those who grew up in very needy situations, right, they may not have been dealt a great hand of cards.
But they still.
They can still, I think it comes down to accountability. You can still play your hand and play your cards strategically in a way where you can still be successful, you can still do your thing, and you can wind up on top. And there's nothing stopping us from doing that.
Would you say that low-income white people and low-income black people have the same ability to excel?
I would say they have the same ability to excel.
Okay, so I'm going to start countering from that point then.
Sure.
So ultimately, we know that our low-income community.
First, I want to point something out before we get into that, because I just want to say that, it's once again, conservatives don't understand distributive causation and understand how all of these factors compound on each other. So let's just try to walk through this for a second to, how I would respond, frankly. But so let's think about a kid who has a math test tomorrow, and there's not enough food in the fridge, and he has to take care of his little sister because his mom is out working 3 jobs so that they can barely, stay afloat. His father's been incarcerated for drug use. Let's think about that. Or maybe he doesn't have a father. Let's think about that. That happens, okay? He has to do all those things, but he has a math test tomorrow. How can you expect him to have an equal opportunity to perform well on that math test when he's going hungry and he can't study the night before because he has to take care of his little sister? So you see how there are so many factors that go into this, that when you don't have the same resources or are disproportionately impacted in such a way by systems of oppression, by the fact that African Americans being denied home mortgages is leading to situations now where the homes are less valuable. The remnants of discrimination and segregation you can see it so clearly built into the way the highways are meant to divide neighborhoods, like the wrong side of the highway, wrong side of the tracks, as I talked about before. So all of it goes together. When we make the claim that systemic racism exists and that it disadvantages Black people, we're not claiming that it is impossible for Black people. It isn't possible for Black people to succeed. Of course it is. Absolutely. We're saying just that there are a lot of barriers to their success that are systemic. This is, once again, I said, saying that the guy who came up before and saying my grandfather or something, went up to the highest rank in the Navy from being dirt poor, rags to riches type story. Once again, what you're doing is you're taking fringe edge cases and claiming that they are everything. That's like claiming that, as I said, I think it's a good example, saying that, John Williams made millions of dollars in the arts composing music. Therefore, the arts is a lucrative industry. ridiculous. No, no, you cannot expect most people in the arts to do that. So just in general, you're not saying that people are incapable of success. Is that there are barriers in their way and we need to do what we can to combat those. But we can't do that if we don't acknowledge that a problem exists. And that's actually really interesting because conservatives and people on the right have a motivation, have a motive to deny systemic racism. Because if you deny a problem, then you play no role in solving it. So there you go. It's easy as can be. No, what are you talking about? There is no problem. Therefore, now I don't have to do anything. See, it's when you break it down like that, you see how much motivated reasoning there is, how little understanding of distributed causation that there is, and yeah. So let's continue.
These are not given the same access to resources on a myriad of levels. They don't even have the same air quality, okay? We know that low-income communities in general are also going to be much more policed than other communities. We know that policing as it exists in the United States came from slave catching. So even the tradition of policing comes from protecting property, not protecting people, okay? So let's start there. When we talk about low-income, like the working class Black people in this nation, we know that they have never been considered, ever, whether they were slaves or not. They just weren't considered. And we also know, as our brother Isaiah pointed out, that there are still people in very powerful positions that hold very personal positions as it relates to racism. And so in that way, they are impediments to someone moving forward. When we talk about DEI, the concept of DEI is not about lowering a standard. It's about widening the options. So we live in a nation that I feel like a lot of y'all are looking at the United States as a long history of something. We have a short history. All right. For 400 years, there was slavery. Black people were not even considered whole humans. We were 3/5 human. After the Civil War, during Reconstruction, Black people were then subjected to the Black laws. The Black laws were specifically for Black people. The Black laws incarcerated Black people at such an exorbitant rate that they were able to get another slave labor force through the 13th Amendment because you had Black people that were serving
except for a punishment of crime.
Life, like months-long, years-long sentences for jaywalking. So when we look at these things, we act as if, well, why can't we just get over that? That's 2 generations previous, okay? So if a father in the early 1900s was incarcerated for 2 years, how do you think that would impede their family from being able to grow, right? Now you're affecting the ability for their children to have 2 parents in the home. You also now have a mother who's incredibly stressed and may have to always be working, so she's not able to parent, etc. We also know that there is a continued effort in this nation to not have Black people know the history of this nation. Like our good sis here was talking about, we have resilience, but this nation actively works systemically to keep that from us, right? We look in Florida at the laws that they are passing to not allow education about our past. And we know that if we don't know where we came from, how can we know where we're going?
Sure, okay.
All right, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
All good.
That's flags.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi again.
Oh, is she back up here?
We cool now?
We good. We good. I think we're on the same. We're kind of looking at the same side of the same coin, and I think we both want the betterment of the Black community, and I think we're maybe coming from it from different ways. And so I do respect your position to what you were saying as well, that there are certain things and powers at play. And I've experienced racism firsthand. A lot of conservatives may try to act like, oh, there's no racism in America. I absolutely believe there is racism in America. I believe racist people exist. I just don't think that the systems as they stand today are inherently racist because I've seen too many Black people overcome. And I just feel like a lot of times.
That's such a ridiculous argument. Can we just point that out? I'm trying to come up with it. Let's think about this, okay? Yeah, there is no stone. There's no boulder that's impeding people's ability to climb to get to the other side of the hill. I don't know if it's a bad example. Think about it. There's a boulder in the middle and it's huge and it's really hard to climb over, but I don't believe that the boulder's there because I've seen a few people who've made it to the other side, therefore there must be no boulder. No, what? Just because you see some people overcome the challenges that they face, which is awesome and great and good, doesn't mean that there isn't still an issue. It's such a stupid way of viewing it. I'm sorry, I don't want to be pejorative, but it really is. I don't believe a problem exists because I've seen too many people overcome the problem, is what she's saying. Therefore, it can't be a serious problem. I don't know, it's exhausting. Also, if you can't tell, I'm getting more faded, but
inherently racist because I've seen too many Black people overcome.
Jesus.
And I just feel like a lot of times what's left out of the dialogue is self-accountability and like self-will. We talked about how we were 3/5 of a person, but now we are 100%, I guess, according to the law or whatever, a person. And I feel like at the end of the day, if you wanted to walk out here right now and decide, you know what, I want to change my career, I want to do that, you can. And that's why so many people, and Nigerians come here, and Indians come here, and so many people who are not white, who are supposed to be discriminated against because they're not white, they come here and they become doctors and lawyers. Why? Because to your
they have the
point,
money.
there's community. There's a sense of pride about, you know what, I got to go honor my parents back in Nigeria.
Because in order to immigrate from Nigeria, you have to be wealthy. In order to immigrate from India, you have to prove that you're going to be valuable to this country in some sort of labor force. This is not that difficult. Like, what? So explain systemic racism when Nigerian Americans who are very wealthy are able to come over here and be approved for stay and completely move across the ocean. Like, Jesus Christ.
Nigerian. I have to go honor my parents. I have to go honor my elders. They're not twerking and shaking booty. They're getting
They are literally twerking and shaking booty in
the
Nigeria.
Nigerians I know ain't doing it. If they are
we
twerking and shaking, but
literally
they
learned
doctors
it from Africa.
They're doctors twerking and shaking booty. So maybe they can shake because they got the money to back it up. But do you see what you're saying? But do you see what I'm saying though? We have to be honest, Amanda. When Indians come here,
so as a fellow daughter of an immigrant, right? So my mother's from Grenada. My mother did come here and was able to work and was able to get green cards for folks. So shout out to my mom. There's a very big difference in growing up somewhere and coming from a place where you are the majority and where your people are running the show than being somewhere where your people have been subjugated the entire time your people have been here.
But your mama came here and she wasn't the majority, so how did she succeed?
She succeeded because she came here with the fortitude of coming from a place.
Her resilience, right?
No, but
and she had her village.
Let me say what I'm saying.
Okay, I'll let you unpack.
If we don't acknowledge divide and conquer in the United States, we are having a pointless conversation.
I agree.
We have to acknowledge that there is a concerted effort at divide and conquer in the United States.
Hot
We're
that day.
literally
I was there that
watching
afternoon.
it happen right now with an effort to divide and conquer and have Black people fighting immigrants and have Black people saying that immigrants don't matter.
And fighting white people.
White people is not the point. The concept of white people is about people who are upholding a supremacy of whiteness versus people who understand that there should be an egalitarianism. There should be an equality.
That we are becoming the new white supremacists.
We are.
We've been putting them on a pedestal.
We are.
We feel like we can't do anything.
No, it's not that we're putting them. It's not that we're putting them on a pedestal. It's that we are joining them and instead weaponizing our Blackness against our people. When we do what you're saying, we are saying, I am better because I figured it out, and so you're the problem because you didn't figure it out.
But Amanda, what about if I believe that the American dream is, I have a right to that as well? Is that me joining white people, or is that me saying, you know what, I want a life for my dream? The American dream for me, because it may look different from other people. Some people it's a boss chick. For me, I want my kids to grow up in a wonderful neighborhood. I want them to go to college. I want to have a 401k. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I feel like a lot of times in the Black community, we associate anything that's right or that's just or that's striving forward with whiteness. So when you say that we're working with them,
it's not that it's whiteness, it's capitalism. And I think that's what we have to understand the difference of. The concept of capitalism always is grounded in exploitation.
But Amanda, we're sitting here benefiting from capitalism, and you know that because
I understand that we are benefiting.
How can you be against capitalism when you have iPhone or succeeded? Like, Jesus Christ. You critique society yet exist in it. Checkmate, liberal.
Are benefiting from capitalism, but I also understand that we would have other people and a majority of people benefit if we were not solely capitalist. That is what it means to be a Black radical. It's to understand that I can benefit as well as others.
So Amanda, what is your solution then? Because we know that capitalism benefits us and people are coming here every day.
My solution is what I continue to say. We need to have coalition building across cultural differences, across ethnicities, across classes.
And that includes collaborating with white people.
I've never said it didn't.
But I
this obsession with white people fails to acknowledge the fact that there are people who benefit from white supremacy.
But we live in America,
Let me finish my point. There are people who benefit from white supremacy that do not identify themselves as white. They don't consider that to be the most important element of their identity because they understand that at the end of the day, we need to see each other as humans that all deserve a right to exist.
Exactly.
We all deserve a right to exist, and I shouldn't have to earn my right to exist. And that is what capitalism does.
What makes you think that you have to earn it? That's what I'm saying.
That is what this nation is. You do have to earn it. You do. Yes, you do. That is why we are criminalizing the poor. We are criminalizing the poor on a regular basis. How so? Because we're not even allowing for a wage to happen to allow people to get out of poverty. We are seeing inflation grow.
We both have people in our family that have done it, so we can't.
No, we have not had people that are done it. My mother came to America with an entire nursing degree. I can't say, oh, well, my mother did it. Why can't you? Because my mother
was pregnant at 19 from the south side of Chicago with no degree and still made
good
something
for
of
your
herself.
mom. But this is the thing. saying.
So we can't
Your
do
mom
it.
it's not. The question isn't whether or not some people can do it. The question and the reality is that it is not available to everyone in an equal way.
And that's unfortunate, man. But we live in a broken society. I went to Nigeria and they're having
want
the
to
same
fix
problems
the
in the
broken
South we're
society.
talking
This is the
about.
problem with conservatives is they've just accepted the way things are because that's just how it is, and I'm going to make the best of it. And that's a good mindset to have in a sense, you know what I mean? You're not supposed to, woe is me, like nothing can happen. But these people have literally just accepted that better is not possible. They are operating on a framework of saying that we cannot have a better society, okay? Which to think that we would do not have to slave away at jobs in order to get the basic necessities needed to survive, or that getting cancer can be a death sentence because you go bankrupt. All these things, no, that's just normal, okay? That's 78% of households living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, that's just how society is. They've accepted that. People on the left, I wouldn't describe myself as a radical, because I don't like labels, but people on the left who acknowledge reality say that no, better is possible. We have seen better, and a better world is worth fighting for. And conservatives are just rolling over and taking it. They're like, yeah, all right, systems, rigged or something, but we're gonna succeed, in spite of that. It's fine. You should try to succeed despite the odds against you, but that doesn't mean that you deny that there are odds against you. If that makes sense.
It's a broken society.
But it's the same thing in Nigeria.
But Nigeria is a broken society, whereas Burkina Faso is not. Burkina Faso is not.
That's time.
My final claim is black conservatism fails to meet the needs of the working class.
Curious who she'll pick for the end. Anthony, back up.
Ant dog. Okay, talk to me.
So I think black conservatives, we're the ones who really want the best for working people. I think we're the ones, like a lot of the liberals, a lot of the leftists, they want us to do things like office work. They want us to go reparations, try to get things from the government and get handouts. We say, hey, go out there and work. Go out there and get these jobs that are available.
I've seen him before.
Work with your hands, do skilled trades. That's where a lot of us talk about skilled trades. So working class, that's really a black conservative thing, in my humble opinion.
I would beg to disagree. I think that would be true if black conservatism also created pathways for people to get those jobs and also to be able to challenge the corporations that are using their labor, that are stealing from them and not impeding them from having a union. So for instance, like in the South, right? I just left North Carolina where I met with the USSW, the Union of Southern Service Workers. This is an unofficial union of individuals who work at places like Waffle House, at Food Lion, etc. And their unofficial union is unofficial because the conservatives in that state will not allow for them to be officialized.
Legitimized.
Legitimized.
There you go. I got you.
It will not allow for them to be legitimized because then they would be able to push back legitimately on the corporations to get fair wages, right? So like someone was telling me in this organization that she was in Baltimore getting $15.25 as a minimum wage. And then when she moved just one state away, she was now only getting $7.25 for minimum wage, but the cost of living was the same for her. So when we talk about, the effort of saying go out and get these jobs and get these trades, et cetera, I think that is valid, but I think that the impediments by leveling up corporations and by pouring into the effort of corporations to keep billionaires, as black conservatives, you are actually cutting off the ability for those people to excel.
Okay, I understand your point, but a lot of us are more about being self-sufficient. So the South, a friend of mine down there in King Randall has a school for boys. He's 22 years old. He has a bunch of kids living with him. He's teaching them physical skills they can do. Okay, being a mechanic, working on your car, working on your house, building things with your hands. So you don't got to worry about corporations. You could be your own man. You could be your own woman. And also, didn't you also say earlier that you're against unions? But are you for them now?
No, I never said that.
Oh, so you're for unions?
Absolutely.
So when the unions keep black folks out, you're for that as well? Because that's traditionally what they've done, keep black folks out, correct?
Wait, that's
Obviously,
not good.
I am not for that. The reality—
You can be in favor of unions, but not be in favor of unions being racist. This is so stupid. That's like saying, oh, you like baseball. Wow. Must have been really happy when they kept, when they kept black people out and the way they treated Jackie Robinson, right? What? What? No. The conservative, you can't make this shit up. It's honestly comical to see how their mind gets there. If you support this, therefore you support this other bad thing. It's happened before. It happened in my debate with Andrew Wilson. Oh God, to think about that. The whole idea when I was Would you be okay with 2 men raising a child? And I'm like, yes. He's like, oh, that means you support 2 men raising a child or 3 men raising a child when they're also brothers. No, you've added another variable that changes the math. Like, okay? Like in this scenario as well, with unions, union good. Union discriminating because of race and keeping black people out bad. That doesn't mean union bad. It means racism bad. How hard is that to understand? Like, Jesus Christ.
Is that unions have definitely in the beginning kept black folks out. And the reason why they were keeping black folks out is because after the Civil War, when there was Reconstruction, you had all these black people that had been used with free labor and they had skills, right? Whether they were a blacksmith or a carpenter or whatever. However, they could not get jobs because the white people who now had to fend for themselves, if you will, because they didn't have slaves, they had to go and learn all these trades.
Right.
And so they actively kept black people out of those jobs. And then what they would do is that when they would, as a union, say, we're going on strike, the black people would be like, well, we'll work because they won't let us in their union anyway. And then when they would go and actually get those jobs that the people were on strike for, they would hang them. They would lynch them. So yes, these are real things that have taken place. But we keep having these conversations where we acknowledge the past when it's convenient, and then we only stay in the present when it's convenient. So you can't simultaneously say, well, everybody's fine now and there's no systemic racism at the same time as stating that there are unions that are racist and unions that aren't racist. Ultimately, there is racism in the United States. It is deeply embedded. We have seen it in a myriad of examples, even just yesterday or today. And black conservatives are working against the working class because they are actively placing their vision, their ideology of black excellence in economics solely.
Well, there is racism
and in individual economics.
Okay.
And I think that's really the big difference of what we're talking about right now. You're talking about every man for themselves. Every man for themselves.
No. I don't say that.
Oh, you didn't say that?
I say that we have to be individual as people, as black people, but still get all of us on the same page. My friend's at school, he's not just looking out for himself, he's looking for all these kids as well. So it's like, okay, I bring myself up
individual
and bring everybody else
problems.
up. Right?
It's a problem. It's like what she brought up was good. You're treating systemic problems as individual ones. That is very true. It's not, if everyone were to immediately change their behavior and not change the system, that things would change. That is not true. If there are certain levels that are certain thresholds that someone has to reach in order to get an appraisal on their home, and that's just a number that was set, and that number was set previously by people who wanted to deny black people home mortgages. And that number is just set. And a lot of people, are redlining, forced into communities. They don't have that. That number, even though that number is just a number, and we replace the system with new people acting on the old system and ways of doing it, will still produce racist results. So that's the point here. Systems can be and are racist. It's not just individuals. It's not just like a real estate agent who just really hates black people that caused redlining, or that is, causing disparities in home equity. Like, no.
Relying upon the corporations and white people to lift this up. That's where we come from as black conservatives. So I think there's a
difference between relying on and acknowledging that there are impediments of. And
Correct.
I want to acknowledge the reality that we keep seeming to bump up against, which is that everybody has equal ability, and they don't. Everybody doesn't have the same impediments. So, for instance, I grew up with a single parent, not because...
Me too.
I grew up with a single parent, not because my father was some deadbeat that didn't have... My father has a MD from Harvard. My father has an MBA from Tufts.
My dad was a firefighter, so working class, conservative.
He just didn't want to be a parent. So when we talk about this whole idea of like, oh, the blacks that are, not doing the thing, it's not about necessarily what class you're in. It's literally just about, we live in a nation that gives the option of, I don't want to be a parent. We live in a nation that gives the option of, I don't need to be in cooperation with our community. And as far as I'm concerned, black conservatives do not address the needs of the working class, which are fair access to resources, which are equal access to getting jobs, which are equal pay to the same access as others. And we don't.
Equal to who?
Equal to other states even. Like, there's no reality where you can say that the same amount of white people are working low-wage jobs per capita as black people. A lot of the reason is because there's such a disparate incarceration of black people that it impedes their ability to get higher level education as well as higher level employment, because we know about disenfranchisement.
All right, there you go.
Hi, Layla.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
I'm
to meet
Layla.
you.
I would actually argue that the black working class is failing themselves. Wouldn't you agree that in order to get a job, in order to qualify for a certain position and an education system at a job, wouldn't you argue that it should be based off of qualifications and not your race or identity?
I've never argued that. I've never argued that to not be the case.
I know that you were saying that you would argue that it should be equal, right? So you're saying that there should be Black Americans in education systems, in jobs, but wouldn't you argue that they should be qualified for those positions and not just placed there because of their skin color?
Correct. I've never disapproved that.
Okay, so let's say
that's not what DEI is. Do you know that?
Well, I'm not talking about DEI right now. Well,
because you're suggesting that I suggested that somebody should get a job just because they're Black, and I've never asserted anything like that.
I mean, I understand that you may not say that exactly, but a lot of the claims are, they're pointing to that.
No, it's not pointing to that. And so
That's
I need to clear this up because it's a really important point.
Okay.
We live in a nation that has actively pedestaled white people. Can we all agree on that? That we
in the past,
we can't.
in the past,
in the past,
but not currently.
In the past.
But not currently.
So fair. Okay. So how many Black people are part of this administration's cabinet?
I'm not sure. Can you tell me?
Zero.
Can you fill me in?
Zero. Who?
So seems like there may be a couple.
That's not a cabinet.
I don't know.
Scott Turner.
Okay.
So
there are.
So we got two.
So there are.
So we got two.
Can we
got
also,
two. We got two.
Are there?
So back to your point, DEI.
I would have to look that up to just see which cabinet positions there are. Definitely not cabinet leadership, but I don't know.
Is about expanding.
Yes. Okay.
Not lowering credibility.
Okay.
So if we have a system that has very actively said these particular people are the best people simply because of their race, DEI said, or their gender.
Okay.
Because DEI mostly leveled up white women.
Okay. So it would be incorrect if it's, if we're pointing toward this, a majority of race is qualified because of the skin.
No one said a majority of race.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether they're white,
no one
Black.
said that.
I mean, race is fake anyway.
Now, I do want to touch on a point that you did mention earlier, that you would argue that, Black people have less opportunities in America. I do not agree with that. I have not had,
first of all, you're a light-skinned woman.
And so are you.
Yes.
And you're doing great for yourself.
Yes, and so colorism really does serve us.
I do want to say, why do you think that is, though? Why do you think that? Do you think it's
proximity to
just
whiteness?
based off the color of our skin, or do you think it's based off of the reputation that Black people make for themselves?
What reputation are Black people making for themselves?
What would you argue? Because I mean, when I look at
who makes a reputation for Black people?
Let's look at music, for example.
We already had this conversation with somebody else.
Well, we're gonna have it again. Most of the people that
are we?
Most of the people.
I'm gonna shut it down right now and let you know that the reality is that when you come to Black music, for you to say most of the people, you've already lost the argument.
Am I right?
There is no most of the people with Black people because you haven't heard of all of Black music.
Most
of
the music that is, let's say, maybe exalted or are shown by the media, right?
And who controls the music industry?
It defiles Black Americans. But who's putting it out there? We are Black.
No,
we're the ones
actually,
putting
the
it out there.
distribution systems that are putting them out there are owned by white people.
Who listens to them? Because I can bet you most of my friends, my Black friends that are not conservative, they listen to that music that defiles their bodies. That talks about Black on Black crime and everybody else.
But if we don't acknowledge that they are not in the same way pursuing.
What they're also doing is they're talking about the environment that they exist in. I agree we probably shouldn't have music that glorifies violence in the sense of advocating for it, but there's a difference between glorifying violence and describing what you've seen. Okay? Describing your conditions. Why do they talk about, dealing drugs and having casual sex and prostitution and all that sort of thing and killing people? Because very often that's what those people are surrounded by. That's it's that simple. Gang violence is real. I'm not saying that there isn't a problem of glorifying violence, and that's not a good thing. But there is something to be said about artistic expression that talks about those things. And also, just because someone says something in a song doesn't mean that they actually believe that. It's very simple. Okay, if I write a song about something, it doesn't mean that I hold exactly those views. Sorry guys, I'm getting more tired, as you can tell. But let's finish this out.
White voices talking about the same thing, even though they are. We simply like to start at the branches of a tree and not at the root. We have to understand that the media is king. Okay, media is king,
and media does not favor conservatism. I can tell you that right now. Look at the protests right now in Los Angeles.
Depending on who is in office, media does favor them.
We have Trump in office right now, and media is not favoring Trump at all.
Media is absolutely not favoring Trump in certain spaces.
No, they absolutely are favoring Trump in many cases. Look at how fast they're folding. ABC paid millions of dollars for a defamation suit because Stephanopoulos called Trump a rapist, despite the fact that the judge literally said it would be a correct interpretation of the ruling to say that Trump was a civilly liable rapist. Paramount completely canceling Colbert because of stuff critical of Trump. Like, the media is rolling over hook, line, and sinker. Okay, they might be criticizing him on the TV, but behind closed doors, where they're spending their money, Trump could go to any media organization right now and tell them to shut something down, or he's going to try to, revoke their Chapter 220, Chapter 230, Section 230 status that protects them from being sued for certain views that are expressed or something, the publisher versus platform distinction. Yeah, so no, you might think the media is against Trump. There's definitely a lot of media that is against Trump because there's an appetite for that. Like, you definitely want to reach people who are going to watch that content. There was a really interesting, fact here. So CNN is owned by Warner Media, which is actually owned by AT&T, if you didn't know that. Or AT&T is owned by Warner Media, one of the two. They also own OAN, One American News, a very far-right news organization. They're funding both sides of the spectrum, okay? Like, all they want is to tell you what you want to hear so that you will keep watching and make them money. And if that means giving exactly opposite information, or, some of it on two separate news channels, they'll do it. Like, it's so, like, I don't know. It's interesting to consider media and the media ecosystem. This whole idea that, like, media is against Trump. Media is against Trump insofar as there's an appetite for liberals who don't like Trump having people affirm their worldview. Okay, so.
Because Trump is also not favoring that particular type of media, but it depends on the day. And we have to acknowledge that regardless of whether you talk conservatism or not, media has never favored Black people at any point.
All right, guys, that's time. You've been voted out.
Thank you.
Please
At
return to
any
your seat.
point.
Thank you.
We're gonna see this dude dressed up crazy.
Welcome back.
Back up.
So let's talk about facts. I just want to move back to systemic racism because you mentioned systemic racism earlier. I just want to look at 3 applications of systemic racism against white people and against East Asians as well. So, for example, we have the National College Attainment Network, which defines affirmative action or even race-conscious admissions as taking race as one of the factors in whether or not you're going to admit a student. And we noticed that when race-conscious admissions was out of it, Black enrollment dropped 64%. At UC Berkeley. And that is an act of systemic racism. Trying to look at people's races and allow them into colleges whether or not they're of a set race is racism. And it's race conscious. And Martin Luther King's most famous quote is that he doesn't want his children to be judged based on race, but by the content of their character. And the content of people's characters also includes merit. We have another example.
Hold on. I'm gonna bring this up. I'm gonna debunk this right now. In considering race in college admissions is not racist. It's actually not. Diversity is a laudable goal, and you should want many forms of diversity, one of which being racial diversity on a campus because it strengthens it for everyone. That does not mean that you accept lower quality people or people with lower test scores, okay? You just choose more people who have higher test scores and happen to be Black. That's what it is. So it's not racist, it's just you're not being prioritized. And when people feel that they're not being prioritized, they suddenly think that they are suddenly the victim. And just because you can't control your race doesn't mean it's wrong for it to be considered. Here's another example. You know what colleges also consider very heavily? Geographic diversity, okay? And a farm boy from Idaho might bring something to a college that a city slicker from Manhattan won't. It might bring a perspective. And being Black in America obviously brings its own perspective. So they might want that racial diversity for their campus the same way they might want geographic diversity. And no one's up in arms because someone from Idaho got accepted over someone from New York, okay? So no, you don't just have to think that you have to control something. There's so many factors outside of our control in which determine when we're going to be accepted into a college or something like that. So, like, no, it's ridiculous.
Racism. Burgess Owens, he's a representative out of Utah. He's a Black Republican representative. He called out the MIT president for having Black-only dormitories. I mean, what does that mean? Why are we trying to segregate each other and say that Black people feel safer amongst Black people when the truth is they are actually more in danger when they're around Black people? And that's unfortunate. It's sad that I'm saying this, but it's the case, and I have to say it because it's true, okay? Black people are killing each other at a vast, crazy rate. Black men rapping about it. It's savagery. It's barbaric, and we shouldn't be doing it as a people. We should try to get more Ben Carson's. Ben Carson's cousins were murdered when he was younger, but his mother came to him and gave him a book and told Ben Carson to read and study so to not be like his cousins. And Ben Carson separated 2 twins at the back of the head, and he's known as one of the
I'm done with the Ben Carson glazing. Jesus Christ. Okay, go back to the point he's making about black-only dormitories. What he's doing is he's making a false equivalence of safety. So, you know, I went to Oberlin College. If you know anything about Oberlin College, they're very left-leaning. And there were some not explicitly segregated black-only dormitories, but there was African Heritage House, okay, that was for people of a certain heritage, because Oberlin has a lot of international students, to engage in that culture and engage in that heritage and be around people who understand your culture, okay, and understand that in the way that a white person may not, okay? So, like, that's not... Black on black crime, I'm so fucking sick of talking about it because it's just proximity crime, okay? They're not killing each other because they're black, okay? So like, you're more in danger around the people that are around you than the people that you don't live around. So let's like, ignore that. But that's the point of like affinity spaces, okay? That they're around other people who are share your life experiences. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with having like women's groups. You know what I mean? Like to address like domestic violence. Is anyone against a women's domestic violence shelter because it's discriminatory against men? No. Okay, so if black people want to have an affinity space to be able to talk about, you know, or like engage in, you know, their culture, you know, things that bring them together, especially like international students, but even, you know, African Americans, they should be able to do that. Question of only like segregated dormitories, like, you know, there's always a balancing act to be had, and I am of the belief, although, you know, I'm always open to hearing more people's perspective. I am of the belief that separatism and trying to separate as like a thing in and of itself is not our goal, or not what we should aim at. Should there be a space for black people to be around other black people around their heritage, not be in a space or have white people in a space that might, not understand their culture, make offensive comments, or racist comments? Yes. However, there's a line to be drawn, and maybe we shouldn't have only dormitories, but we still should have those spaces. The same way we should have domestic violence shelters for women. The same way we should have, I don't know, anything. Maybe, might be a German night for German people at a pub, okay? And if someone was like French and they were visibly or like very French, or even like someone from Nigeria who was black came in, it would be kind of weird because it's like, you're not a part of this. You don't have this shared experience and culture that we are bonding over. That sort of thing. So I just think that's really important to point out that like we don't just like call everything discrimination and then just say we should do none of it, because there are forms of discrimination that we absolutely accept. The kind of discrimination we shouldn't accept is unfair discrimination. It's discrimination that disadvantages people. Okay? So you know what I mean? Like, no one's saying that women's only domestic violence centers like disadvantage men, except maybe the men who want to beat them. But like, you know what I mean? No one's making that argument because it's a ludicrous argument to make. You're allowed to discriminate who comes into your home. You might not want someone in your home. That's fine. Like, you know what I mean? So it's really about a conversation of, is someone, is there, of course, in many cases, there are reasons to discriminate. It always happens. Okay. So like, I don't know. Like I think that there are bigger problems to address, and exactly where we draw the line between what is like, good to have and one that, maybe isn't the best strategy in terms of, segregating people or separating people. I don't know what that line exactly is. I'm not claiming to, be all knowing on that or anything. I'm not God, because God doesn't exist. But, sorry guys. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm kind of talking in circles now, but black only dormitories argument is just stupid.
Best renowned neurologists or neuroscientists that we've ever seen.
There we go, Ben
right?
Carson.
Ben Carson said that slaves were immigrants.
Well, they were brought here to the United States, and
is
many
that
of them
an
were slaves,
immigrant?
and we know that to be a fact.
What is the difference between someone being an immigrant and being a stolen person?
I mean, I understand that many people were stolen here, but 90% of historians agree that slavery would have not been possible if black slave owners within Africa didn't sell off their people. White people didn't show up and just start stealing people. They didn't do that. That's not how that worked.
They literally did that.
But they didn't. They worked with black owners and the Arabs.
They literally did that.
It's funny,
and Arabs did that as well. And I think it's very important. And I think it's important to note that there is an oversimplification of history as well as of Black people in Africa. There's a failure to acknowledge that in Africa, Black people did not consider themselves Black people. That was a racial distinction that was solely created by white oppressors to legitimize slavery.
Arab oppressors, actually, because the Arabs did it in the 7th century. They were the first ones.
They did not name it under Blackness. They simply just decided we're going to go and have enslavers. This was a decision that was actualized and then tried
Based
to be pushed forward through eugenics. Literally, there was an executive order that was passed a few months ago that said that Donald Trump wants to now control the museums because he wants to take back control of the narrative around race. And in one of these museums that they cited was that there was a display that speaks about race not as a biological thing, but as something that has just been created as a social construct. And he stated that that is an incorrect expression of race, that race is biological.
But it is biological. Like, let's look at our phenotypical traits, the nose
phenotypical
differences,
traits are
the
different,
hair texture. It's a biological thing.
Race
Sure,
is
there's a social concept, but there's biological differences that exist.
You're very convicted in your lack of
different.
information around these things. Race and ethnicity are two different things, okay? Ethnicity is where you're from. Race is literally something that was created to put people into categories of caste, to put people into categories of oppression. Race is not something that you are. Race is something that was bestowed and put upon you.
That's racism, not race. Race is simply the aggregation.
Race is literally something that was created and put upon you. And I want you to listen to me as somebody who has studied this, who has a master's in African American Studies from the Institute for Research in African American Studies at Columbia University. I want you to understand very clearly that race is not something that is biological. There is literally
look at us. Look at the differences.
There is many differences that are equated to ours that has nothing to do with race.
Melanin content is not biological at all.
So if you have a Black parent and you have a white parent, and now you come out looking white, how is that a biological proof of your race?
Most of them
There's
come
no
out
most of them.
having curly hair.
Stop. There's no most of them. You do not have anything to
You're
prove
mixed
that.
race too.
I am not mixed race. My mother is Black and my father is Black.
Well, my father is also considered Black, but he's very much has a lot of European DNA. And
you know what I think? I think that you are at a phase of your learning where you are a contrarian. And I look forward to seeing your development because I have a feeling that you're actually going to flip the script eventually because you are somebody that definitely is grounded in wanting to learn facts and wanting to learn the truths of things. However, you're currently still stuck in an indoctrinated space that is tricking you into thinking that you are something that you are not. You are a Black person who is literally having to receive the results of racism, but ultimately you are of an ethnicity that has thrived in spite of it. And that is where we really exist from. And that is where our resilience comes from in spite of systemic racism.
I think our resilience is happening now. I think growing, understanding the real problems, not going out and trying to protest against, you guys don't ever do this. KTS,
You
Dre,
guys don't ever do that.
KTS,
Who is
Dre.
you guys?
Members of the Black community that don't want to hold people accountable, especially Black people. So KTS Dre was shot 60 times outside of Cook County, Chicago. How many BLM members came out? You earlier said BLM is about
referring
police.
to me as you guys.
Okay, that's fine. So, for example, we had a really good example of this where it's not a police because I remember you
Where
said.
are you from?
Where am I from? What do you mean by that? Like, what state am I from? Where was I born?
Where do you live right now?
I live in Florida. I was born in Angola, though. I was born in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay.
Where did you grow up for most of your time?
In Maine. I lived in North America.
In Maine.
Yes.
And what is the population of Black people in the town that you're from?
It's really extremely low, but I grew up around Black people, and there was a Black community where I lived.
And that Black community that you lived in, did they teach you about Black history in the United States?
I
Like,
learned Black
are your parents Black American?
Yeah, my mom is Black. My father is Black.
No, I'm asking, were they born in the United States?
No, because I wasn't born there.
Oh, so you guys are all from Angola?
Yes. But again, like I told you earlier, right? In terms of people like KTS Dre that were shot, BLM doesn't come out for them. And I remember you earlier said,
think it's really
hold on, can I please finish?
Stop. This is stupid. Because BLM is not, these conservatives who here, fine. We'll use an example, okay? Just to get on their page. Pro-life. Okay, they're against abortion. We talk about this a lot, saying, "Oh, you're not, in favor of other things." Okay, if you think it's unfair to say that pro-lifers should care about every issue under the sun because they care about abortion, then it's also unfair to expect Black Lives Matter to care about every other issue under the sun when they're focused on police brutality. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing. So now, granted, the comparison I made is faulty because the pro-life position is ridiculous, okay? But if we were to, for sake of argument, accept that they were fighting for the lives of the unborn, it would be, and that was somehow a noble fight. It's not. We hypothetically, we're really stretching the bounds here, say that it is. it would be ridiculous to then say, oh, well, you don't care about someone who just died of cancer or heart disease. That's not their stated goal. Their stated goal is to end abortion. It's really to subjugate women. But regardless, if their stated goal was real, it would be wrong to hold them to a goal that is not theirs. A problem is not theirs. So saying that Black Lives Matter, where were you? A black man was shot by a citizen. There's a difference between a citizen killing a citizen and the state killing a citizen. Like, then Black Lives Matter is about police brutality. Okay? That's what it's about. Racial injustice. So yeah, they're not going to come out for every issue under the sun when every black person dies for a completely unrelated reason. Okay? Yeah. Like I said before, same reason the American Heart Association is not, solving cancer. Like, it's not in their domain. It's not in their wheelhouse. It's not their goal. So it's stupid.
You said that BLM is worried about police, but when Daniel Penny choked out the man that we all know was causing violence on that subway train,
he was not causing violence.
He was threatening
causing
people.
Disruption is not causing violence.
He was threatening people.
Causing disruption is not causing violence.
And the people there helped him also, and we know that he helped them.
I don't know what that has to do with BLM. Random people on a train is not Black Lives Matter.
BLM showed up for that. They did.
Showed up for what?
BLM showed up threatening white people, saying that they were going to go get white people. Now they
BLM protested.
BLM New York.
BLM protested. Where did you get that from? You see, your sources.
See how they're fact checking this claim, but not others. Actually, it's right. One leader in the BLM movement said that there should be black vigilantes to retaliate. So now they're gonna paint the whole movement. You can see how Straight Arrow News is covertly right wing. Okay, they're not neutral because all the stuff she was talking about, stating facts, not fact checking a lot of it. Few in there to make it seem honest, but now they're putting it here.
You're not able to cite your sources. Please go sit down.
Yeah, that's the truth.
It's not the truth. It's not the truth. It's not the nothing you say is actually the truth. Nothing. You're not even American. You're not even a Black American. As the daughter of an immigrant, it is imperative that Black people from other places understand the disparate difference that they exist from Black people in the United States. It is not the same. Period. And ultimately, the best effort that we can do as a diaspora is to lead in understanding, not in judgment. So when I am talking to somebody from Sudan, from the Congo, from Angola, I am listening to understand their experience, not to undermine it. And I refuse to allow anybody from Grenada, from Angola, from any other place to come and try to undermine the experience of Black Americans.
Good for her. Damn, she ate. Who you would talk to. I think she can confuse Jazz, right? I think they had a decent conversation.
Who feels passionately about something that they want to talk to me about? I choose John Samuel because I like his facial hair and dashiki pairing. I feel like he's gonna sing a mean R&B.
All right, let's see. I wonder what the claim is gonna be.
Which one? My claim is that Black people as a community need to walk away from the Democratic Party and progressivism completely. I'm saying this from a very unique perspective. I'm not trying to shout myself or anything. This is really just my experience. Currently, I'm running for Congress, right? And one of the biggest hurdles I have in doing that is the Black community. It's because they expect us to be in this box.
What's the box?
The box would be, okay, you're Black, so you got to be a Democrat. You got to think this way. You have to have this view on this matter.
No, you got to tell me, think what way? I really want to understand.
Yeah. So let's take immigration. That's a hot button issue right now, especially in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
My view is that you should come here the legal way, and that if you don't come here the legal way, you are subject to the laws of the country. But I also feel that if you're...
anyone would disagree with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that a lot of people, especially where I'm from San Diego, will like to put Black conservatives in this box. And the reason why I say specifically in my claim that Black people need to walk away from the Democratic Party is because every single election cycle, all they do is use us as their tokens. They use us as their kind of election tools. They use us as these campaign posters. They tell us to come to their rallies. They tell us to sing on their stages. They tell us to do all these things, and they forget about us 3 other years, and they remember us 4 years later. Every single cycle, it happens again and again. And I'm one of the people, I really appreciate you because it seems like you have a love for the Black community and you have a love for people, and I appreciate that. And I do too, because I don't express that in the same way as, let's say, as a Black person who's a member of the Democratic Party. I get called Uncle Tom, I get called I get called a racist. I hate myself. I love myself and I love our people. I love everything about us. We have done so much for this country. We built this table that everyone is seated at. We deserve rights. We deserve all these things. However, what I don't like more than that, more than anything, is being used. It's being used by politicians, being used by governments as some type of puppet to say, here's my black person that's voting for me. I don't like that. And it makes
Fine. What's the solution? So if you want to say walk away from the Democratic Party and like not to the Republican Party, which I presume is the party affiliation in which he is running for Congress. If he is, I haven't heard about him. Like, no, I don't like the Republicans are just overtly racist. Okay. Just like completely out there, just racist. Okay. Like we don't even need to like look 2 seconds to see them being racist. Like, so like, if you want to say walk away from the Democratic Party and coalition build and like just completely, oh my gosh, sorry, excuse me, Democratic. You guys can tell I'm tired. And apparently so was the Jubilee editor who edited this video at this time because Democratic is spelled wrong. Is it on purpose? Guys, my brain is in a different place. It's almost like demon, Democrat. Okay, I'm going to stop. You can't tell. Ooh, all right. What was I even talking about? Yeah, like if you wanted to walk away from the Democratic Party, not towards the Republican Party, which is seemingly what he would be advocating for, then no, this whole argument is stupid. So, yeah.
No matter you're Democrat, Independent,
Can
Green
I respond?
Party, whatever. Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I would add to that it's no different with the Conservative Party, that there is 1000% a use of black people to weaponize a concerted effort to literally, quote unquote, make America great again. The concept of make America great again did not start with Donald Trump. It started with Ronald Reagan, and it happened right after the Civil Rights Movement. There was a very strong, visceral response by white people after the Civil Rights Movement, after the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Fair Housing Act of 1969, the Economic Opportunity Act of 1965. These were all efforts that were put in place on a federal level to say, okay, fine, here and damn, we gonna give you a little bit of something to get your weight up. After that, there was a active effort made by conservatives, because that's also when we saw the flip between the Democratic and Republican parties.
There was no flip.
There was a flip. That's actively what happened. There was a flip. And
Since Reconstruction, Democratic Party has been the party of slavery, the party of racism.
There was a flip because the Democrats were more aligned with making these civil rights concessions than the Republicans. That's the flip. Ultimately, though, the flip is what people are misappropriating.
The easiest thing to just dispel this whole idea that the party switch is a myth, which conservatives love to do. Which party embraces the Confederate flag now? Question. If someone were to have a Confederate flag, would you assume that they aligned more with Democrats or with Republican? How often do you see like a Joe Biden sign and a Confederate flag? Ever see that? No, obviously not. Okay. The party of Lincoln is the one that is flying the flag of secession. Fascinating. Like, just stupid.
Because the flip isn't a 180, okay? The flip is literally just, we was this and now we this. And that is not the same as we are for black people. The Democratic Party is not for black people, nor is the Republican Party. Any nation that has a bipartisan system that doesn't even allow for its own people to determine who are going to be the candidates for president isn't for its people in general, beyond blackness. So it's imperative that we begin to truly understand the systems at work in this government that not only hinder us as black people, but they hinder anyone who wants to see change, because they are ultimately working together. Now, do we see one party activating higher levels of discrimination than others? Yes. Do we see one party that is more violent per se than others? Yes. And we can say this on many different levels. But when it comes to like enacting genocide or destabilizing other nations, we know that that happens on an American level, regardless, okay? I completely agree that the idea that you have to act a certain way as a black person is really problematic, because the Democrats and the Republicans, neither of them actually care about black people. And when we talk about conservatism or we talk about being liberal, neither of these aspects were grounded in how do we help to repair the harm that we have caused an entire group of people who made it possible for us to even have a constitution. So you can sit here and show me whatever you want.
No. The only reason why I was going to show you this is because
even with that constitution, we weren't even humans. When they wrote it.
So that was another fact check I wanted to kind of fact check before, but I couldn't say anything. But the 3/5 compromise had nothing to do with your 3/5 of a person. The 3/5 compromise had to do with representation in Congress.
Yeah, but they were.
So there's a little note here. If you open this,
the 3/5 compromise said that the Southern slaveholders needed to be represented fairly in Congress, and because there was so many more slaves than actual white people in the South, they were allowed to count their slaves as representation, even though those slaves did not have the ability to vote.
If we were at that time, let's say the 3/5 compromise never happened, we were a whole person as in light of the government, right? If that happened, then this America would not be the America that you know today. Because what it was is, if it was, we were counted as whole.
You're defending the 3/5 compromise,
Can you
bro.
just listen? Can you listen? No, listen for a second.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to get mischaracterized.
So here's what he's going to say. I already know where he's going with this. He's going to say that the 3/5 compromise allowed there to not be such overwhelming representation in Congress by Southern slaveholders that the Civil War and Lincoln would have never been elected. So the 3/5 compromise was actually good because it prevented the South from counting their slaves as full people, because if they counted them as full people, they would have overwhelming representation. Okay, that's still bad. Okay, I would I would rather eat. Sorry, my brain is too tired for analogies right now. I would rather stub my toe really hard than get my hand chopped off. That's not even a fair comparison. Ignore the comparison because it's stupid. I would rather have a better thing than a worse thing. That doesn't make the bad thing not bad and dehumanizing in this aspect. It was dehumanizing. Okay, the correct thing to do. I mean, if we're being logical, if they're property, they're not represented. That would be full dehumanization. If they're fully human, they would be freed. Okay, so this whole defending of the 3/5 compromise, of this idea that it was actually really good because it allowed the North to maintain enough representation in Congress to be able to gain political power. Fine. If you want to say that it was a strategic move by the North in order to maintain representation, you can argue that there were benefits electorally for ending slavery. That doesn't change the fact that it's still classified into law that black people were not fully human. Okay? So it's not, you don't have to it's not either way. It's not either or. So I don't know.
Okay. Slavery was wrong. It was absolutely disgusting and immoral thing.
Okay.
I have nothing good to say about that. But the 3/5 compromise, if you counted a person who was a slave as a whole person at that time,
yes,
most of the slaves were held in the south of the Mason-Dixon line, right?
I just said that, yeah.
So what would happen is they would have more representation in Congress, and thus those laws that were, by the abolitionists, those would have been gone, okay? So that would have gave the South more power to do the things that they couldn't do. So that's why they said the 3/5 compromise, because then if it's 3/5 compromise, they don't get that power. But of course they're people, so they have to say something, and that's where this came into play. Because if it wasn't for that, this country would have looked a lot differently.
So you're suggesting that it was okay for slaves' bodies to not only be used for labor, but also used to empower those who are harming them to be fairly represented in government?
I think it's absolutely, they should have been used, period.
Okay,
I think it was
so then we agree on that.
Yeah,
we agree on that.
It was absolutely abhorrent. There's no excuse for it. There's no justification for it.
So then where's the argument? Because ultimately, when there was an opportunity in Reconstruction for there to be equality and humans considered in a real way and protected,
Democrats torched it. Andrew Johnson.
Yes. As well as the Supreme Court. That's actually more important what we have to acknowledge.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court torched it. The Supreme Court has actively, throughout this entire existence of this nation, been at the forefront of impeding any advancement, and it ends up sending us back over and over and over again because it doesn't have term limits, because it doesn't have term limits. It's not elected, it's appointed, and ultimately they have made it abundantly clear that they pick and choose when it's the states that are going to have rights and when when they're going to be in a federal position of precedence?
Well, that has to do with the supremacy clause. So the supremacy clause
You
is
don't
when a
have to
federal law
mansplain
is
the
in conflict with
Constitution to
state's
her.
law. The federal
Yes,
law will
it's
override. For
always gonna be-
example, in
yes.
California, weed is legal, right?
Yes, but federally,
it's
it's
not.
not.
So they
Yes.
can come down here and
Yeah.
they could say, hey, we're going to raid all these places, and they would be completely in line with the
And
law.
so this is how segregation and discrimination ended up existing even after the civil rights laws of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment were passed, because Congress said we need to protect black people, and the Supreme Court said we actually are not going to give you the right to do so. For what it's worth, I think we can do this back and forth all day, but at the end of the day, I will completely agree with you. Black people need to let the Democrats go. I think black people need to let both of these parties go and figure out a way to move forward together in our own nation.
You know what? I can actually get on with that because, I don't believe that all Republicans are, good and not using us as well.
Power
I
of the
agree with
people,
that.
brother. Power of
I
the
agree with
people.
that. And
Let's sing a duet.
I'm for no matter what color skin you are, or black, whatever it is, think for yourself. If you think for yourself and you do your own research and you want to be a liberal radical, go for it. If you want to think for yourself
Everybody
and be a Green Party,
everybody
go
know
for it.
I agree
if
with
you
this.
Want, if you want to
Everybody
be
know
liberal
this is my
and be
I'm
Republican,
singing
then
along
go
with
for
you.
it.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes.
You know what? I'm down for that.
Hallelujah.
Think for
Come
ourselves.
on.
Let's
All
do
right
it.
now.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Appreciate
All right.
I appreciate coming on the show and debating with Amanda. I could see that there was a care for the community and there was a care for
Seems like a
wanting to
genuine guy.
uplift us rather
good.
than treat us like a monolith. And that's what I'm all about. Regardless if you're a Democrat, Green Party, Republican, I
Green
just
Party
think that
mentioned.
people are far more complex than we give them credit.
There is an active effort of folks on any side of the aisle that want to see the elevation of black people to be able to come together and have real conversations that are grounded not in stats, and this is going to sound real woo-woo, but it's what it is, that are grounded in love. And I hope that whatever anyone took away from this conversation is the reality that I really do love black people.
Stats
I
and
love
love.
people, and I love
Both.
the ability to exist on this earth and have access to joy.
I think sometimes things get a little bit heated, and
Hold
that's
on.
okay.
Yeah, I
because-
want to point that a little bit. People on the left need to stop, in my opinion, denigrating facts or stats. Is it true that stats can be misleading? They often don't tell the full story, yada, yada, yada. Yes. But when we say we shouldn't care about love more than facts, we should care about loving people because it's the right thing to do. It's the true thing to do. But I don't know, fuck the logic, anything related to truth or stats is debate bro bullshit is not true. Okay? The truth matters. We should follow the truth. Absolutely. But we absolutely should love people. And love should absolutely be up there. But I don't know. This video's almost done. Why am I stopping this from being over?
His emotions get the best of us. But I think overall she did pretty well for her position. I don't agree with her for the most part, but I think she did pretty well.
Just kind of seeing this dynamic that this is really what happens. A lot of times when we look at discourse, we look at it online, so everybody's typing and typing, but this is what real discourse looks like. When you have to really sit in front of someone and unpack your arguments, you can see the pressure that causes and how you have to really kind of have your thoughts together and how heated and emotional it can get. So I think the fact that you guys, created this space for us to be able to do that is awesome. Whether it was productive or not, we'll
That's
only
awesome.
see.
Hold on a second. All right. Wait, I'm there. Guys, look at me. Look at me. I'm right there in the video. Okay, sorry. I think it's really funny how they end the video with someone defending Jubilee because they know how much heat that they're getting. But yeah. All right.
Hopefully some of the things that, we said stick with Amanda. She was using some of my quotes, about resilience and everything. And I was like, okay, so I'm planting a little bit of seeds there. And then of course there were times where when she was right, she was right. And I was like, you know what? She has a point. So I think it's pretty productive if you allow it to be.
All right. There you go. Now let's talk a bit. All right. Well, that was definitely something. I don't really know what to debrief on now. Interesting video, interesting to consider all the different perspectives, not a whole lot I hadn't heard before, but, I'm in agreement with the one Jazz at the end that I think these spaces are better, not worse. And I think that, people seeing these arguments are good. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have much else to say. I usually have enough to debrief on here, but, I think the reoccurring theme throughout the video is conservatism and anti-intellectualism and not thinking further is so ingrained in a lot of this because you have a lot of things. Yeah, fatherlessness is the issue, but why do they stop at fatherlessness? Do they think just men are just of their own accord and free will just deciding to, yeah, fuck it, I don't want to? No, of course not. It's because of mass incarceration. It's because of many other factors, because of poverty, okay? A lot of things like that, because of improper sex education. Like, there's so many other factors that go deeper and are systemic. But what conservatives can do is they can bottom it out and say that, oh, no, bottom's out here, it's individual, there's no systemic problem, we play no role in solving it. And I think that that's what we got to push back against, okay? A lot of people, especially powerful people, stand to gain from the status quo. Okay, and talking about systemic racism or how the system disadvantages black people and disadvantages everyone threatens them. So they spend a lot of money and send their figureheads like Candace Owens, who's funded for at least for a long time through the Daily Wire with billionaire oil money, to claim that the system is not racist whatsoever at all and that you are not being oppressed at all, because it reinforces the narrative that the people at the top, overwhelmingly very wealthy white people, want to have there. So simple as that. It's kind of all I've got. If you have any thoughts, as always, please put your thoughts down in the comments below. I want to hear. I'm sure. Keep it respectful, as always, as much as I can say that. I'm sure that there will be some less than flattering comments, but that's kind of all I've got for now. Definitely thank you so much for watching, as always. Check out the links in the description below. There's my Instagram link. There's my TikTok link. So check out, as I post a lot more short form content there, as well as there'll be clips from this. But yeah, that's kind of all I've got. You should see a couple of videos pop up now. I'll end the video soon so that these stay here. But click on one of these videos. Hold on, will it be right here? I think the video's gonna be right here. You can click on that one if you want. YouTube thinks it's good for you. It's probably one of these reaction videos. That's all I've got. All right, hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night whenever you're watching this, and take care.